of life. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream.
Morning.
It's showtime.
What's up?
Hello, Jazzy, Kim, Deb, Brett, Sam. Thank you for joining us. So today, paranormal myths, misconceptions, and I can't remember what the other word was.
Ethics or morality?
Moralities, that is it. Thank you, Deb. So as we go on during our discussions tonight,
I didn't remember the title of your own stream.
I got confused with the last one.
Let's just cut the lady some slack. We've been up with you blokes all night long.
Yeah, then I had a brain freeze. Due to lack
Yeah,
of
so
sleep.
let's just, cut the lady some slack.
So if anyone has any questions during the stream tonight that you would like answered, as Jazzy did, put them in the chat and we will try to answer them for you. This topic has probably been covered lots and lots of times before, but we haven't done it here on this channel. So we'll get into it and see what we come up with. I can't see my paper though.
Okay.
I've got my normal glasses under my sunglasses because I can't see. I can't read the chat. Literally, it's just fuzzy. If I take my normal glasses off,
It's just because it's dark.
I need to book an optician's appointment. I really do.
Yes, you do.
Hey, Kim, Jazzy, Shelley.
Shelley, hey.
Hi, Shelley.
Wild child.
Wow, child.
Can I take my glasses off now? Oh, that's better.
Yep, you can.
I can see now.
Mark and Annette, hello. We're just waiting for a couple of people to join us, but we could start getting into the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is myths, and I had a lot of troubles trying myths. Yes.
Right, okay.
Paranormal myths. Had a lot of trouble finding the kind of specific ones that I wanted, but let's get into it. Do ghosts only come out at night?
No. I think we've proved that with the last few streams on another channel, remember? I think we've, pretty much, it's a 24/7 thing.
Absolutely. And believe it or not, a lot of people ask these questions. A lot of people don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
only teeth come out at night.
Not mine yet, thank God.
Boys like Brett. Okay, so the second one is, do ghosts hang around cemeteries? I've been asked this so much on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yes
they
and
hang
no.
around wherever they want.
Yes
That's
and
my
no.
response.
They can be anywhere, in my opinion.
There is, where I come from, there is a famous hall called Himley Hall, which is connected to the gunpowder plot, because that's where they all fled to after the gunpowder plot failed. Now, there is a woman there who was married to one of the owners of Himley Hall, but she wasn't noble born. And her wish when she died was to be buried in the common graveyard, which is on the opposite side of the road to the hall itself. And when she died, they buried her in the noble graveyard in the hall grounds. And to this day, her ghost is actually seen walking across the road from the noble graveyard into the common graveyard, to the point where there are constant skid marks on the road outside Himley Hall, where people have thought there's a woman walking out in front of them and they've had to slap the anchors on to avoid it, So there are some ghosts that hang around cemeteries, but personally I think that is more of a residual one sort of thing. But you can get them hanging around cemeteries, but they don't live in cemeteries like people think.
No.
Go Sam.
I kind of go with the concept that when someone dies at the point of death, that's when their spirits releases.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
sometime
Yeah.
afterwards, kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people have asked about, asked other people about, do you get better contact in cemeteries? And a lot of people say no, at
No.
times.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard that too.
But at the same time, there is stories of hauntings. We have a one in here in Donegal where apparently on Christmas Day, this spirit of an old lady is seen crying and walking around all the graves.
Yeah.
Do you know? So,
Again, that sounds residual.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you want to add anything to that, Deb?
Evelyn.
Yeah,
I guess those sorts. Yeah, and Steffi's in the house. I guess the only other additional thing I'd add is that the stories that both Sam and Brett have said, when you think of what gravestones are made of, the material, and we've touched on this sort of stuff before, residual haunting or the stone tape theory could play a part in that.
Mhm.
So it's not actually still a spirit as in trapped in time, it's simply a residual of a spirit that potentially transitioned centuries ago, but the wishes were not met at the time. And, I would say that's probably, it's
So
a residual.
there's also
And,
another Oh, sorry, Deb. Sorry, I thought you'd finished. Go on, carry on.
and with the materials that are in cemeteries, particularly a lot of the ones, the older ones, I would imagine England, it's no different to Australia. There's wrought iron, which is a conductor of electromagnetic energy, granite, those sorts of materials. And the earth is always charged with electromagnetic energy. So I would suggest that it's not out of the realms of possibility on that basis alone.
Yeah. The other possibility you could have connected to that and stone tape theory is people visit cemeteries to honour their past relatives. So there's a lot of upset goes on when somebody goes to a gravestone and to leave flowers and because a lot of people go to graveyards and talk to the dead relatives. Perfectly normal thing, that a lot of people do. Another possibility is that it is not actually the ghost of the person you're seeing. It could quite possibly be that the people going grieving at the stones are providing the energy,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
you are seeing a projection of who they remember,
An
Yeah.
imprint.
not so much as the person themselves. So that's another possible explanation, which links into stone tape theory. The emotion,
Yep.
the emotional energy would be absorbed into the gravestones themselves of that person, and what you could be seeing could be somebody's remembered images of them rather than the actual spirit of the person itself.
Indeed.
Yeah, very good point. So for just really quickly, I'm sure that we've touched on this before, but if anyone comes across this stream, one of you want to touch very quickly on the kinds of hauntings? Because you said residual hauntings. There's kinds of hauntings and what they are briefly.
Well, there's only two. You've either got residual hauntings or intelligent hauntings. Residual hauntings are basically non-interactive. It is literally like a movie playing over and over again. Whereas an intelligent haunting is when the witnesses actually interact with what they see.
Yep.
Sometimes conversations or being touched or things like that.
Mm.
That is the interaction is the defining aspect of what makes it a residual or an intelligent. There has got to be some kind of intelligent interaction between what the spirit, whatever you want to call it, and the person witnessing it for it to be classed as intelligent.
Yep. Thank you.
I'd agree with that. Hey,
In a
Jackie.
nutshell.
Hi, Jackie.
Oh, Jackie. Sorry, I've got a mouthful of tea then.
Could there be a small subsection for electronic voice phenomenon without the actual visuals, sort of thing?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
EVP would technically come under intelligent hauntings because
suppose,
you're getting interactive responses.
That's true.
So that although EVP is a class of its own, like you say, Sam, it is a subset of intelligent hauntings.
Yeah.
So you can break them down into subsets within each of the two classes.
Yeah.
Because same with the residual, you can have residuals that are, some of them are time based, so they occur on certain days or certain times of the day, and then other times it could be certain conditions, like they're seen during a thunderstorm. So you can break down residuals as well into different subsets.
Yep.
Depending on what the
Hey,
trigger
Jeff.
seems to be.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Fairy.
Yeah. I could
All
roll
right.
with that.
Me too, definitely. Let's have a look. Here's one for Sam. Aliens are little green men flying around in saucers.
Funny you mention that, because the minute I got up this morning,
You saw one?
Don't tell me you've one
no.
appeared at the bottom of the bed.
No, the first video that came up was an incident in the United States, I think it was, and it's only recently, and people are starting to take it really serious now, because a craft had seen coming from the sky into the sea. There was a splash.
I saw that one.
A submarine went to investigate it, and there was nothing there. And they believe now that a lot of these UFOs are, was it transmedium or something like that? They're, interdimensional
Yeah,
objects rather than physical solid
Yeah.
objects.
yeah.
You know.
And to be honest with you, Sam, that is a theory over the last 20 years that has really grown in popularity in ufology. That they are basically using dimensional travel, and they are coming from other dimensions. A good
Well-
example of that is Skinwalker Ranch, where they were actually a lot of the UFO, because Skinwalker Ranch is known for the mutilations and the cryptids, but the most famous things to happen at Skinwalker Ranch was the ships that apparently were appearing out of huge portals that were forming in midair, like a dimensional portal.
That one that you referred to, Sam, I saw that the other day. That clip where it came down and hovered above the water and then splashed.
Yeah.
From a Air Force jet fighter squadron. Got it on like the TikTok.
I think it
But
was,
this time they photographed it.
I think it was taken in thermal, I think.
Yeah.
Thermal or night vision. I think it was thermal imaging. I think it captured it. I think.
Yeah, see, a lot of UFO cases, there's lots of reports of saucers going into the sea. And
Yeah, there are.
They believe, one line of thinking is that their bases are actually underwater, so that they're not so highly visible. We had a very famous case back here about 40 years ago in Wales, where ships were regularly seen diving into the sea, and there was just off the coast a pile of rocks, and people photographed what they described as men in white suits walking around on the rocks regularly. And for over 40 years now, there is room. I think it was Newport in Wales, or New Haven, one or the other. There's been reports that they actually have a base off the coast in Wales.
Well, have you ever seen the movie The Abyss?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That,
and the same with Cocoon.
Cocoon.
Cocoon
There's no
was
reason. Yeah, that's good. We're all showing our age.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to suppose, in the vastness of space, and we're only one galaxy, right, that we're alone.
Yeah.
So it's not a stretch of the imagination to imagine that they're not air breathing at all, that they use water and can manipulate it in ways that we simply cannot.
The thing is, they don't even have to be water breathers, because if as a lot of people believe, these crafts are capable of traveling through space, and there is a lot of like Bob Laser claim that they're using anti-gravity techniques. A ship that is capable of traveling in space using gravitational engines will be perfectly capable of traveling
Capable.
underwater exactly the same.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Exactly the same.
Here's a very weird sort of vision on things. What if Earth is like a television, and what we are the TV channels? We're on one channel. There is another channel which, say, what the afterlife. I mean, George Mead, sort of, one of his theories was that there is different levels of existence, and the
Yep.
reason why we can communicate with certain, because they're lower down in the frequency range, that we can actually communicate with them.
Yeah.
And when they get to a certain level, like a staircase of sorts, we can't communicate with others. You know.
Have you been secretly studying Little Green Men, Sam? Because you're suddenly getting knowledgeable on the subject.
Yeah.
No,
Have you been slyly researching this?
no.
In the
But
background.
it kind of ties into it
Yeah.
a little bit, because
Yeah.
what is Little Green Men?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Little Green Men, are they a different species? Are they the same species? We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Well,
For all
we don't.
one of the newer claims now that is coming out a lot is the alien, because some people claim there's about nine different species that visit the planet currently. That's the thinking. It is now becoming common acceptance that the ones that people describe as the little grey men with the big black eyes aren't in fact actually real beings, that they are genetically created drones. That is current thinking now, and they're actually being controlled by a higher species that is occasionally
Yeah.
seen with them. Jazz just put an interesting question in the chat, Julie.
Yeah, I was just writing that down, but we'll answer that one now if you guys want.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Jazz has asked, do spirits get stronger and feed off of a bad mood, or is that a myth?
Do you want me to start?
I don't care who's, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
My personal, and this is just my personal belief, I do not believe that spirits in any way, shape, or form need to suck off us like some kind of energy vampire. I don't believe that they do. I believe that when you move on to wherever you go, you are adapted to survive in that realm, whatever it is. You don't need to vampire off a living being. This is just my personal opinion. In respect to, do they feed off bad moods? My opinion is, if you put out negative energy, you attract negative energy. So it's not the fact they're feeding off the mood; it's the fact they're just attracting like to like.
I totally agree with that. It's like when you watch, and that's becoming very limited on YouTube, investigations, and somebody says that they're effective by their batteries get drained, their bodies, they get headaches.
Yeah.
There's 1,001 other things that could be, but it's
Yeah.
always put down to a negative implication,
Yeah.
i.e. Desmond's.
I do believe that it's possible they may be able to drain batteries because they're literally tapping into the electric power in the battery. I don't think they suck electric out of the body.
No, I think we imply psychosomatically what we've been trained to look for.
Bang on. Bang on.
So when we see a battery drained, or our first thought is what we've been pre-programmed by watching these shows and how it's been portrayed.
Yeah.
That's what we expect.
Yeah.
And whoever's doing the investigation reinforces it every time, no matter who you watch, because that's the common standard that is expected. No one questions frequency.
Yeah.
No one, whether they've been dehydrated, if they've been at work all day and they race off at night, you can get a headache from being dehydrated.
Yeah.
You can be affected with a migraine if you're too close to an energy source to start with. So who knows about all, overhead wires? There's 1,001 other things that could be.
Yeah.
It's not always it's not a negative, and I agree with Brett.
Yeah.
There's no need for any other entity to feed off us. The planet is enough of an energy source, and the sun. What do they need us for? We only put out so many hertz. It's not enough to jumpstart your car.
Yeah. See, there's also the contradiction here where they claim batteries drain, which I'm prepared to accept could be a possibility. They could feed directly off electrical power. But you feeling tired is not as a result of electricity being drained out of you. That is just that your body hasn't got the glucose and stuff in it. So, they're then trying to claim that these spirits are sucking off two different forms of energy. They're sucking batteries dry for electric, and they're sucking us for glucose and the natural energy in the body.
Don't need either.
Exactly. It's a contradiction. How many things are these things supposedly sucking off?
Yeah. What do they need glucose for? That's a flesh and bone.
And the thing is, if you think about it, there are billions and billions more dead people than there are live ones currently. We would all be like used up batteries by now if the dead were sucking off our power, because I think there's something stupid like about, is it 1,000 dead people to every live one currently?
Well, the last time I looked at that,
it's some ridiculous number. And what you've got to realise is if a spirit was sucking off you electrically, they would be directly interfering with your brain, because that's how your brain works. It's basically electrical impulses. You wouldn't be feeling tired. You'd be twitching on the floor, not being able to function, and probably dead.
And you've also got to allow for the fact, like we touched on, I think last week or maybe the week before, when I used the example of strobe lighting and frequencies and so forth with my sister who's an epileptic. You don't know the medical condition of these people.
Exactly.
You don't know any background other than they've been affected. Well, that's great, but don't always assume that it's A, a Desmond, or B, that it's negative.
Right, Sam,
we've had
sorry, Dave.
Sorry?
Go on, Sam.
No, go, Doc.
We've had a case where we went to a location, and the location was filmed on television about 15 or 20 years ago, and it was a legit, proper investigation by a guy called Andy Matthews. And that's how I got the location. The place was called the Cooney Ghost House. And we went into that. We went into that location with a lot of equipment, and
sorry, Sam, I ain't laughing at you. I just had some really dirty-minded thought when Julie was putting her lip gloss on. Sorry.
I know, I saw you watching me.
Yeah, that's why I just can't touch this.
we always go to locations with a lot of batteries, and these batteries were. It was like putting bullets into a gun. They were gone within 10 minutes and stuff like that. Now, the way we sort of looked at it was, instead of maybe the spurts draining the batteries, is there something else at play that caused the hauntings and caused the batteries to drain?
Exactly. Exactly. Because there can be natural places that actually will drain batteries.
Of course there are.
It occurs naturally in certain places. So what you're saying is spot on, Sam.
Yeah, there was one or two devices that didn't drain, but everything else that we used drained.
Yeah.
Our camera was one thing that was okay, and a ghost meter Pro, one of these ghost meters, the plastic see-through thing.
Yeah. The really annoying ones.
Yeah, that was fine. The K2 kept draining, and all these other things. Radios, everything. Just within 10 minutes, just from and we had an thermal camera, and you could see the the little battery meter just going down to nothing.
I tell you what, when you think about it, in line with what Sam's just said, and she's absolutely correct, think about in the ocean, right? And water is a conductor. We can all agree on that, yes?
Yep.
Think about all the coaxial cables for the internet and satellites that is laying on the bedrock of the ocean across thousands of kilometres. Now, wouldn't that energise energy in Earth even again?
Yeah.
Who knows what you're picking up on some things?
Exactly.
For all you know, you're picking up on a chat from a coaxial cable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially salt water, where salt water is a bit more
Exactly.
conductive than
It's even more conductive, salt water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
It is.
That's where I was going next. And the other element is the salt in the water.
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble, but think logically about what it is that you're actually watching before when you're watching investigations. It's just the spook factor, and we've all been trained to believe that it's this, that, and the other by watching these programs. So we automatically mentally go there, when in fact, if we stopped and took our, let's be entertained hat off and think logically and rationally, there are a gazillion unknown explanations for what's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's how I'd answer that.
This is the thing. People nowadays go from the wrong end of the scale. Instead of debunking the normal first and then reaching a paranormal conclusion, they totally ignore not rational explanations or natural explanations and jump straight to the it must be a paranormal thing.
I say this all the time. You always see investigations where people will get a spike on a K2 meter, or they might have a noise or what sounds like a growl come through a voice recorder or something like that, and they automatically jump to the fact that it's a spirit or it's a demon or whatever else, instead of trying to debunk it or re-emulate it.
Yeah.
Well, there was one show that I was watching a couple of weeks ago, and they picked up a growl because they put the word up on the thing. Anyway, I went back and played it afterwards. I take all this with a grain of salt. It was somebody's bloody stomach growling. He had the right near his big fat gut. Not that I haven't got one of those either, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And they came out a few days later and said, it turned out it was so-and-so's stomach growling because he hadn't eaten before he came from work to the investigation. And in case anyone's wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses, my sinuses have flared up with all this rain and every pollen's in the air, and I'm very light sensitive at the moment, so I'm keeping my prescription sunglasses on.
Yep.
Just thought I'd clear that up. I got zoned
the wine heavy last night. What were you going to say, Sam?
We work. Sometimes we haven't worked since before the lockdown, but we work with this team, and we all have this agreement that any noise that you make, and it was drilled into me anyway. I've learned it anyway, that every single sound that you make, whether it's a burp or fart, a noise with your clothes, shoes, everybody sort of wears soft shoes. You get some of these investigators that have the shiny material jackets, and every time they move their hands, that's why you'll see investigators wearing hoodies, because they make less noise. Hoodies and running shoes, we record the environment all the time, and every time stomachs gargle and stuff like that. We would call it out. We would say that's my stomach, and there
Yeah.
was a lot of that actually in Sharon Rectory down in the basement, and there was burps and barks and grumbles of stomachs and everything, and we called it out each time. Because at the end of the day, we're doing this for us. We're not doing it for YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And the thing is that I always say is important as well is you've got to use high quality recording equipment, because if you use something like the Tascam, hi Janet, if you use something like the Tascam and you get the rustle of like a nylon tracksuity thing on the Tascam, you can tell it's the rustle of a nylon piece of nylon material. If you listen to that same sound recorded on one of these cheap MP3 Olympus things, it sounds like a whisper. And that
Yeah,
is
well,
why a lot of them will deliberately use low quality recording equipment, because it masks a lot of the truth. But not only masks a lot of the truth, it makes it sound like something more beneficial to the stream, shall we say.
yeah, well, we use Zoom and we use Tascam and that for our environmental recordings and that, and but we do use the low bit recorders for EVPs, where you ask a question and you wait 20 or 30 seconds and then you stop, sort of thing, because of the frequencies that these produce. Otherwise, we would use a top quality recorder with background audio support, like static of radio and stuff like that. So these low bit recorders, they do record EVPs, but if you're recording the whole investigation of the environment, the best quality recorders is the only way to go in that sense,
Yeah. And as you've both we've all alluded to, particular fabrics as well. We've talked about other things with people being affected. Leather jackets. Every time I see somebody with a leather jacket on, I think, oh yeah, here we go. And they move, and you can tell that it's the leather, their arm or something.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a scratch or whatever.
Yeah. This is also
and
why I
nylon.
say you shouldn't smoke when you're in the middle of an investigation either.
Yeah.
Because smoke curling up in front of a camera can look like anything. Absolutely anything. If you want to have a smoke on an investigation, move away from your camera so people can see you smoking and see the smoke coming off the cigarette.
Yeah.
Simple as.
Yep. All right. Jazzy has a really good question here that I want to bring up. She says, I've always wondered if once you're dead, you can understand different language or just communicate with your own language, because if you did an investigation in France, could they understand you? I have a pretty good example of this one, and it could just be coincidental, but when I was in South Australia, I went to a little cemetery where there were a lot of pioneering people from German descent buried in the cemetery. And when I was playing the spirit box, I was having German come through the spirit box.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah, and they don't speak German on Australian radio stations, so that was kind of out there.
See,
look at last night. How many languages and cultures did we get last night?
A lot.
I've dealt with a lot of mediums and done a lot of reading on things like what happens when you pass over the voice to various people. And that goes on the assumption that when you die, you still communicate the same way that you do now. Now, most mediums will tell you that it isn't so much a language, it's more like a thought process they communicate with. So it is literally like a universal language. From what I've been told from various mediums, once you pass out, and this could be totally bullshit, it's just what I've been told, language goes out the window. It's more of a universal language that is used on the other side.
I've been told that too.
It's more of a thought process than an actual language.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't speak and communicate using vocal cords the way we do.
You've got no vocal cords at that point.
Well, you've got no, and the common sense response to that is, once you're out of your body, anyone that's ever astro travel can tell you this, you're not communicating the same way.
Yeah.
You're not using your vocal cords, you're using your mind.
Yeah, up here.
Correct.
See,
It's all around the mind.
I think for me that day when I was at the cemetery, it was probably more of a case of them saying, giving me confirmation it was them. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get French and German responses on some spirit box sessions. You know, I asked for a yes or no answer one day, and I can't remember what I asked. But next thing, nine, which is no. I've asked, does anybody want to come through and say hello? And next thing, bonjour comes up and stuff.
Well,
like
you had
that.
Italian last. You had Italian last night.
Yeah.
There was definitely something said in Italian. I could tell it was Italian, but I couldn't tell you what it was said. But it was blatantly Italian.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Japanese.
But no, I don't know if I should touch on it.
Go on.
It's kind of touching on, can animals talk to us in our own language, and I don't think so. Humans, yeah. Animals, I don't think. No, I don't think so.
No, I agree with you on that, Sam.
I
agree with you on that.
I think that was kind of a fraudulent kind of thing, but I won't elaborate any further on that.
Yeah. See, I believe that even animals are part of what we class as the universal consciousness, but they are much younger souls, for want of a better word, and they haven't reached the communication level you need before you come back as a human. So I don't believe that they're even on the other side. They're at that communication level where they could sit there and have a conversation with you like your best friends.
Well, if you wanted to hold to that sort of a premise, then all the whales in the world and mammals that have ever passed, we should be able to communicate just as equally. Their their sonic capacity is far better than ours. Dolphins are a perfect example, but any mammal has the same capacity as us. So therefore, we should be able to talk to anything.
It's because the biologists and
is that true? Don't know.
Well, they claim that what defines us from animals is that animals have no sense of consciousness or self-awareness. How
do we know that?
Well, exactly, but that's what they say. The big barrier to communication is because they don't. They have no sense of consciousness as such.
Perhaps not the way we would define consciousness, but there's no way to determine that with any degree of certainty.
Yeah.
The theory around that, I don't know. The theory around that is that the spiritual energy works through the communicator, and this is why other species speak English. But I don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't register with me, and especially doesn't register because of the person that claimed these claims.
Yeah.
Fairies just put up a good comment. Telepathy can be used with animals. So, therefore, the experts are wrong. If they've got no consciousness, how can they communicate?
Yeah.
In a way that we would understand. And vice versa.
The only thing I believe a pet could do was to come back and just show themselves to you. I think that is as far as a pet can go with communicating, to let you know they're okay. I don't think they can sit there and have a full blown conversation with you and tell you how much they loved you in life and they really miss you. They could probably convey the feeling of loss, but they wouldn't. I don't believe they can sit there and have an English conversation with you. I just don't think it happens.
We got a bark. We got a bark in a very controlled environment. In the location, it was claimed that there was a black demon dog because it's black and got
it was a demon dog.
red eyes.
Yes, man.
I once I heard that, I went, oh god, kind of thing. But I was very surprised to actually get this, this recording of a dog barking in their cellar
Yeah.
with no houses around. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Now,
Hmm.
was it a residual thing or was it a repeated thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we did pick it up on
Yeah.
the camera's audio. Actually,
Yeah.
we picked that.
Yeah. I do believe animals can make their presence felt. I just don't believe you can have conversations with them. I think that
Oh,
they would just communicate with you how they communicated with you in life, like a cat might rub around your legs or something. I don't think
Yeah.
that that I don't think they come walking up to you going, "Morning." You do realise just before I died, you forgot to feed me fish. I don't think you'll get that kind of
No.
communication with a cat.
yeah.
No.
The concept around that is taught, is converted to the language of the communicator, which
Yeah.
I can't get my head around it, to be honest.
No, 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 me.
Mm.
And what we got last night with the other languages, kind of proves that in a way,
Yeah.
because
I was just going to say that.
yeah,
Then last night would have been proof that that thesis holds true,
Hmm.
yeah.
and over distance.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Okie dokie. Let's go on to another one. Oh, here, fairy. Why are growls considered Desmonds and not just spirits trying to say hello?
Go on, Sam.
Oh, let's handball this to Sam.
Um, there was a big misconception around a recorder which looks like this is a Panasonic RR DR60, and a lot of growls would come through this recorder, and the reason for that, well, they're about to try and prove the whole concept around the DR60, is because when we're picking up communication, the communication, it needs a carrier, it needs a frequency, it needs some audio and stuff like that, and the audio that's provided in the DR60 makes all and makes a lot of the EVPs sound like they're growling and stuff like that. Um, it depends on what audio is used for the communication. If that audio isn't 100% correct, you may not get the original voice of is communicating with you. So it can be muffled, it can be growly. I would put that down to a lack of essential frequency for clear communication. A lot of the time, to me, people get scared when they hear some of these things, and then you have these people that overuse reverbs and echoes and stuff like that. That's not natural communication. That's altering the raw communication, and that's why I don't use it. I'd rather have. I used to use it, and I sometimes used to overuse it a little bit, and it's altering what's coming through the communication device. But I think a lot of the time, the growls is just not the correct frequency, and that's the way it comes out sometimes.
Hmm. Well, I'm gonna answer the question in 2 words and say nothing else. The reason that people associate growling and stuff with evil entities in 2 words can be summed up as horror movies, and that's all I'm saying
Yeah.
on the topic.
I will say one word: views.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm. All right. Tony has another question which Sam could probably answer. He said, I recorded at Gettysburg.
Oh, I
When
want to
the
go to
wind is
Gettysburg.
blowing, you can hear voices and even Native American chanting. How can I hear it clearer? How can you get clearer recordings of that?
Natural sounds like birds and even far away traffic can be a carrier for EVPs. When you have wind blowing into your recorder, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. You can. I can't do it, but audio engineers can take layers of audio.
Yeah, that can take the frequencies out.
But there's always a price to pay in a way. But when it comes to EVP, wind is not your friend. When it comes to wind blowing into the microphone, yes, you could create a frequency for a carrier and that, but it sometimes distorts the audio and it's not good. It's when the speaker in the microphone is forced with wind and makes that noise, that's when it's very, very difficult to extract EVPs from wind effect itself. The sound of wind, you can pick up EVPs and that, but it blowing straight into the microphone, it can ruin everything.
Yeah. And that's a thing too, I guess, with a voice recorder too, or, an EVP recorder, because they're so sensitive, there are a lot of things that could be misheard as being voices or growls or something else, couldn't they?
That was exactly what I was about to say, Julie, after you finished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be very doubtful or very dubious of any evidence that you're only getting when the wind is blowing or it's increasing when the wind is blowing, because the wind uses an awful lot of frequencies when it hits the ear. So, the chance of oral pareidolia is absolutely gigantic when it comes to the wind. I would say, if you are only hearing them when the wind's blowing, then it is the wind and not something paranormal. It is the wind
Yeah.
somehow hitting the right frequencies to either sound like whispering voices or to sound like chanting or whatever. If you can't hear it, once that wind drops down, if you do not hear it at the same level, what you are hearing is oral pareidolia as a result of wind.
Agreed. And the wind produces static, so
Yeah.
that's going to impact on your equipment.
I think what's really important, and I've kind of learned that over time, is you go to an investigation and say, right guys, let's do an EVP. They ask a question, you wait 30 seconds, bang, play it back, ask another question, bang, play it back, and then they play it back live on camera and they go, oh, we didn't get anything there, and they'll go and delete it and that. I think what people should do is, even if they didn't feel like they got anything, do a segment after they're live and say, right, we're going to go through the EVPs and put it through the editing software every time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll get low tone responses that you won't hear at the time, and you need to amplify that sound and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
if you drop them into Audible, you'll see them instantly. You'll see the sound waves visually instantly, even if you can't hear them, and then you can amplify them.
Even Audacity
Yeah,
is free.
using Audacity, perfect piece of software for it.
People ask me, what's the best recorder? I says, have you got a computer? Annabella Cardoso is one of the last people of the old school ITC and that. She uses her computer. She doesn't use other recorders and stuff like that. She just uses her software and records off the computer and stuff like that. Then she has the EVP. But when you're out in investigation, you can't hear the EVP. Don't throw it away. File it away. Go through your software. You may be surprised.
So Evelyn just said, what about when we as the audience hear a growl? And I just put up there, if we were live, for example, they can let us know. We'll debunk it. We'll go through, or did someone do this, or what was that noise,
See,
Yeah.
Julia, sorry. The problem is you've also got to take into account the location at the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't know what, well, I know you've got weird fucking animals over in Australia, but over here, we've got things like badgers and stuff like that. And if a badger is out and about at night, they make growly, snuffly noises.
Yeah.
Same with foxes. I don't know how many of you on the channel have ever heard a barn owl, but a barn
Yeah.
owl actually sounds like someone screaming in pain. Barn owls do not
Yes.
hoot; they scream. You've
A
also got
koala
to,
growls.
yeah,
Yeah, koala
you've
growl.
also got to be aware that it could just be the wind moving a piece of wood.
Yeah.
The wind moving something else. You've got to put it into context. Just because you've heard a growl doesn't even necessarily mean what you've heard is a growl.
Yep.
It could have a perfectly natural explanation.
Explanation.
And to be
Yep.
honest with you, I think if you ain't getting it like multiple times to track it down, it's probably unlikely that it's any kind of paranormal communication anyway. Because if it is, they tend to repeat themselves until they get the attention they want.
You know,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
if you walk around a location with a Tascam or a Zoom and plug a pair of headphones into it, you got bionic ears. I mean, like
Yeah,
I've heard animals rustling in the trees.
yeah. I'm the same with my Tascam.
Yeah.
And the good thing about the Tascam and the Zoom, because they've got the directional mics, you can actually hear in your headphones roughly where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's easier to track things down. But just
Hello,
because
Robert.
something, hi Robert, just because something sounds like a growl doesn't mean it is a growl. Because 99.9% of the time it will have a perfectly natural explanation. I'll give you a perfect example of how people jump to conclusions. About a year and a half ago, I took Jace on one of his first investigations to Wombwell Woods. Now, Wombwell Woods has got some really big paranormal stories surrounding it. It's famous for spirit lights. There's a very famous suicide murder that went on there, and there's all things seen in there. We were doing part of a recording, and Jace heard a twig snap, and straight away Jace presumed it was something paranormal creeping up on us. And I turned around to him and said, Jace, we are standing in the middle of a wood with foxes, badgers, squirrels, what's it? There are a million, and I said it to him live on the video. There are a million and one other natural things that could snap a twig in a wood, and this is the problem. People don't keep context of what's going on. They're either doing a paranormal investigation or they're watching a paranormal investigation, so they immediately jump to the conclusion that whatever goes on is paranormal solely on the basis of what they're currently watching, rather than going from the basis of, well, what could it be before it was paranormal.
Yeah.
Particularly out at night, animals come out
Yeah.
at night like kangaroos.
Yeah.
Something running through the bushes is not necessarily another human being,
Yeah.
because they move quickly if they're scared.
Yeah.
Wombats are the same. I think, sort of leading back and segueing back into what I stated earlier, by the time they hear what they perceive to be a growl or some sort of movement or whatever, they've already reacted, so the audience reacts the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very fine. It's a very fine form of mass hysteria with something
It
like
is.
that.
It's herd mentality.
Yeah, I've
at its
had
finest.
I've had my ears truly opened when I started using a parabolic dish, and the parabolic dish is about that size, circular, and when you point in a certain direction, I was even hearing. Do you know, like when birds get into their nest at night and they're going to sleep and they're, they kind of sometimes they kind of chirp in their sleep.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hear that with your normal ears and that, but you could even hear them moving about and chirping at the same time, sort of thing. You know, kind of getting comfortable and stuff like that. It's truly astounding. And what happens is they sound travels to the dish, reflects off the dish, and goes to the microphone. So it's kind of directional. You move this dish
Yeah.
around, and you a lot of the audio from behind you, like say if there's traffic in the distance, that's reduced significantly. You know,
Yeah.
So when you point the dish in a certain direction, you're picking up these little birds, trying to get some sleep, and they're kind of twitching around, and they sometimes they kind of let out an odd little chirp in their sleep, sort of thing. It's amazing.
You know, well, a good example of that is that, how directional mics can be. I was talking to Julie and Deb the other day. I can't remember whether Sam was in the conversation or not. And my dog started barking really loud, and I'm going, shut up, shut up, shut up. And neither Julie and Watson could hear it. Now, that dog was only like 4 feet away from me because the mic is actually set literally within a very narrow field to me now.
Yeah.
So
you couldn't hear it.
anything outside that field ain't picked up. And then the parabolic dish is exactly the same, but does the opposite effect. It magnifies everything in that narrow corridor of sound.
Mm.
I know that like a lot of people have their favourites that they watch, and I know that some people love to go in and they might be one of the favourite viewers, or whatever else, and a lot of people get caught up in the hype of growing and having their channel becoming successful. But as I will say time and time again, it is us and you guys as viewers that need to turn around and question these things and call people out for doing the things that they do if it's not real, because that's the only way the paranormal field is going to change.
Yeah.
And all of the fake stuff is going to move into the entertainment category.
Yeah.
So
when you say that, when I started off investigating, I made loads of mistakes. But
me too.
The viewers,
everybody does.
The viewers never called me out on it, and that's not a good thing in proper paranormal investigation.
No.
No. There may be an odd person that would say, well, you could have done this differently, or blah blah blah, but in general they say, brilliant investigation, you're fantastic, and all the rest of it. I said, don't say things like that, because I'm not.
Yep.
They get caught up in they want to be part of something, and I understand that. That.
Yeah.
But
perfectly normal human reaction.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I understand people not want to call other people out because, or call me out. They don't want to cause offence or whatever.
Friction. Yeah.
I understand that, but I think it's important when we progress in that, we look back and stuff and say, well, I could have done this different.
Yeah. See, no,
absolutely.
I'm the opposite with that, Sam. It annoys me no end if people sit there agreeing with everything I say. It annoys me no end. I would rather people...
You're wrong, Brett.
I would rather people turn around to me and say, well, I don't agree with that. Here's my point of view. Because when people... I'll tell you something. When people have had the nerve to do that, the amount of things I've learned new from conversations like that is unbelievable. And I've had conversations that have totally changed my opinion on a paranormal subject, totally based on them going, well, I don't agree with that. I think it's this. And when I've looked into it, I've thought, you know what, that actually sounds more plausible than what I originally thought, and adapted my, my opinion to that. Yeah. To me, there's nothing more annoying than having a chat room full of yes men. It really does my head in.
Yeah. And the thing is too, I mean, I've been in this situation before. I've called people out before for their BS. And the thing is, as soon as you do it, you encourage others to do it. So it's like a chain reaction.
You open the floodgates.
Yeah, people will stand with you.
They will. They'll say, oh, I was thinking that, but I didn't want to, say it.
Exactly.
Speak your mind. If you think there's anything that... I mean, how many times over these streams have people seen Brett and I not agree on something, and I'll diplomatically say, well, I'm not there yet, or I'll find another way.
Yeah.
Or
well, look at me, and I always make a
different
joke about me and
pathway, but we
spamming
come to the
aliens.
same conclusion.
Yeah. It's like when, I always make the joke about me and Sam whenever we just discuss aliens, because Sam's at the exact opposite end of the pole to me, and I just find it funny. Me and Sam have never had a single argument about aliens. We've disagreed on
Shouldn't
our
have to
beliefs
argue.
on them, but we just happily laugh it off and do on. But it's not just the fact of pointing out fakes. If people just have a differing opinion on a subject, then say it. Because there isn't a person on this planet who can say what they're saying about any topic in the paranormal is the truth, because we simply don't know.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah.
Kim's
why
just
we do
raised
what
a
we
good
do.
point.
Yeah, I saw that.
Absolutely. And she's spot on.
I
The
said
minute you
something
do
once.
call it,
Yeah, I said something once when I seen something I knew was fake, and they were a big YouTuber and blocked me.
Yeah,
That's guilt.
yeah,
I
exactly.
I've been called out, actually called out a couple of times for using radios, and they're saying, that's old school. We've moved on from this. You should be using the Wonder Box. And I'm going, right, you're getting this from a certain person. People are following this, and it's a problem in ITC for us. And then I go into explaining what these pedals actually do,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we may not agree at the end, but we can have a debate about it. I've called out that certain YouTuber a couple of times, and I've had people that came on and said, leave the guy alone, he's a godly man, and then I go into explaining why I disagree with him and stuff. There's no hate in that,
no.
and I would go into explaining why I'm calling this guy out and why some of the things that's been going on is bad for ITC, sort of thing. And in general, when I get negative comments like that, they normally are constructive debate comes from that, rather than just the 2 words. Oh,
see what Kim's just put there. I said something once about him, and then he put block me, and they said they didn't want any negativity. As far as I'm concerned, there's a difference between negativity and constructive criticism and difference of opinion. There's an entire different. If somebody's just literally poo-pooing everything you say, that's negativity. If somebody's disagreeing with you on a point or giving you an alternative point, that is constructive criticism, and they are poles apart. It's not that they don't want negativity, it's that they don't want people not towing the party line of their beliefs. And that when people say to me, "Oh, I don't want negativity," that says to me, no, it's not that you don't want negativity, it's that you're that close-minded, you're not even prepared to accept, to even consider alternate explanations.
Yep.
Kim is a very good example of not being a yes person, because I do a lot of sessions. She reviews a lot of my sessions. I think she reviews nearly every session.
Yeah.
And she would say, you got great responses, and this came out and that came out. If there's a session where there's absolutely nothing in it, she'd say, in my opinion, I didn't pick up anything. She didn't say, well, you got nothing.
Yeah.
She says, in my opinion, I didn't hear anything today, but you made an effort. Thanks for the video.
Exactly.
And that's just the way, I appreciate that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how adults do it. I mean, you see some of these channels, and my God, the abuse and carry on and drama. And I've told you about a channel that I jumped into a couple of weeks ago, and I just, 45 minutes later or 40 minutes later or something, I just went, oh, no, and I unsubbed completely. But the reality is, adults debate logically, factually, or they simply say the truth. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like anybody that thinks that any of us are expert, we're not. We're talking from experience.
No experts in the paranormal.
Nope.
And logic and reason. We're not drama queens. None of us, although I would suggest when it comes to the electronic side, Sam is someone who I would turn to and classify as an expert in that field.
Absolutely.
I don't know about that. I'm
No.
only learn.
Well,
I'm
you're more knowledgeable.
Mm.
If you're not comfortable, you've got far more knowledge
Yeah.
than certainly I do. And
Yeah.
that's why if anything came up about that, I would defer to Sam and say, yeah.
the people that I look up to, and there's only one person at the moment in the line of audio and stuff like that, is actually an audio engineer that's into the ITC. And that's when I discovered how little I knew about audio. And it is, to me at this moment in time, it's a learning process, and it's an extremely difficult learning process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get the impression, yeah, we get this equipment, and we get a K2 meter, get a PSP7, we go out and we investigate and do our ghost hunt and stuff like that. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks to go through everything that we do
it
and
does.
stuff like that, and especially
It
when it
does.
comes to audio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where we do the old ways, where we you know, we do an audio recording along with our video recording and that. And Penn and Sue the Paranormal, the people I work with, they often put recorders everywhere in a location, all over the place. And each person gets a recorder and they review the whole recording, which could be 4 or 5 hours. To review about 10 or 15 minutes could take the whole day to do. Sort of thing. You know, it's
people don't realise how long you have to sit there and keep listening to it. And it is not easy to sit there for 4 hours and just listen to comparative silence for the majority of the time.
What happens sometimes when you get an EVP and you try to amplify that, you're also amplifying the sound around it, and you're trying to filter it down, and sometimes you start distorting the EVP and you're trying, what can I do? You know, it can be so frustrating trying to clean it up, and no matter what direction you go, if you go outside that boundary by a tiny little bit, you start distorting the audio, and you're kind of caught in a place. I don't know which direction to go to try and clean this up, you know?
Yeah. See, Jack's just put there, I try to be truthful. Some of the boxes Sam uses, I just can't handle. My ears can't take it. Now, what I'll say to people who say that is, believe it or not, by not listening to them, you are actually limiting yourself, because you find the best communication, from my opinion and from my experience, has always come through the static, not through the direct responses you get. It's what you hear coming through in that static where you get your little nuggets. So, by, you know, not liking hearing static is something you know, as horrible as it is to some people, it is something you really should try and train yourself into listening to, because you're limiting, you know, you're limiting yourself by not listening to static on a static type box. There's just so many frequencies there. You know, you just discounting because you don't like the sound, and that's where your nuggets will come from. Is in that static.
You gotta train yourself to listen to different boxes. Like the one Sam was using last night, the long cream color one. The first couple of sessions I listened to that, I couldn't pick up anything out of it. But now the more that I listen to Sam using it, my brain is starting to pick them up. I can hear them. Yeah, that one.
But
that is a
Kim wears two hearing aids. Now that is going to be a different situation.
I didn't know that.
Me either. So, pitch correct.
Which I did buy recently buy a box. I bought it yesterday, and it's a noisy box. But when you're reviewing things like that, take plenty of breaks. You know, take it as a, because I'm not putting out. You know, when it comes to a session, I put out a video. You can stop and take a break. You know, but you see, this is where we get to noise filtering and noise suppression with you know, the noise gate pedals and that. Noise gate pedals and reverb pedals they're designed for a stable audio, like music,
Yeah.
music from a guitar. A spirit box is not a stable audio, and
No.
it's not suitable for these pedals.
Yeah.
For example, if you stood in a room here, and I'm given the scenario of a noise gate pedal. Get your friend to go into the next room and start talking, just talking normally.
Yeah.
And get the door between the two rooms, open it and close it, and see can you hear every single thing. And sometimes when you close the door, you're gonna hear not.
Yeah.
You're not gonna hear.
Yeah.
So that's what a noise gate does. What happens is some of these frequencies are killed by the noise gate, and that's why
Yeah.
we don't use them. And a
Yeah.
good box builder, you won't see a box builder incorporating a noise gate into a spirit box. They will deal with the static directly,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than producing the static and then suppressing it. But because what's happening is the communication is made and then it's taken away. Some of it,
Yeah.
you know.
See, noise gates are the perfect example, because how they work is they basically cut frequencies off after a certain range. So by the very way they work, they're limiting the frequencies,
You're get
by their
you're
very work. But
you're giving you're
Tony's
giving
just put something there. When you listen to static long enough, how do you know it's not a kind of pareidolia? I'm just wondering. You can never 100% guarantee that what you're hearing isn't pareidolia, and this is what a lot of people won't accept. You can never say with 100% certainty that it isn't. But when you listen to enough white noise, you get a sense of what is actually pareidolia and what might not be, because normally when you get an actual response or a word, the static sound itself actually changes. You lose all that background hiss, and you get a very clear word or phrase said as if it's said in a silent room. All that noisy static noise vanishes, and you just get the word or phrase as if it's said in a quiet room. And that is normally a good indication that it is actually a communication rather than just pareidolia. But even in that case, you can't 100% say it definitely is. You can never rule out visual or oral pareidolia at all, ever.
that's I think that's it's a good idea, when it comes to things like the PSP-7 and noisy boxes like that. Take them in sections of 10 minutes. Give yourself a little break. Go back to it. And then you go, every time you go back to it, you go back to it in fresh ears rather than being overwhelmed by all the noise.
Yep. That's what I do. I have to listen to it in blocks.
Yeah.
Mm.
We won't do that on the video because I record raw. I record raw as it is. Don't alter the video. Don't put in subtitles or anything like that. And I pick up stuff afterwards that I don't talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm putting it on YouTube, but some of the people that are really big into ITC, maybe they'll like it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Rather,
going back to a comment that Fairy mentioned. Sorry, Sam, you go.
go on ahead.
I agree with what Fairy commented. When I'm listening to some of your stuff and other people where there's a lot of static, I don't wear the earbuds. Then they don't give me a bit of a for want of a better expression, of buffering. But I do wear my big headsets, and I get a cleaner sense of it then.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to headphones, when it comes to reviewing EVPs, the best thing is not to have noise cancelling headphones, because you're gonna cut out some stuff that you will not hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Extraordinary headphones. In investigations, I think the best headphones is open. If they're
I
called
just heard
open.
growling. Did you hear that in the background?
Oh, I did.
Did you hear that rumble?
Yeah, I thought that was your dog.
No,
My dog's asleep.
there was rumbling then. See, now that could just be, the codec playing up. It sounded
Well,
like growling, but I'm pretty. Go on, Deb.
if you can hear my chimes, then my next door neighbour's heat reverse cycle air conditioning heater just clicked
Yeah,
on.
Oh,
So
it's
it's
probably that.
perhaps,
yeah. So
yeah,
There you
see,
go.
and that's a perfect example of how somebody can turn around and say there's growling going on in a stream or there's growling going on
yeah,
in a video when there's a perfectly natural explanation for it.
yeah. Faz has just put his aircon or heater
Yeah,
on, and
yeah,
the huge big unit for it's just right there over the other side of the fence.
yeah. You should
Debunk.
invite Faz. You should invite Faz over for a stream one day.
Oh, he's a lovely guy. Absolutely lovely. God love him. He texted me just before I came on and wanted to know how I was going with the streaming. If I had any difficulties, don't hesitate to let him
Yeah,
know, and he'll try and help out. He's just a lovely guy.
Oh,
He gives,
yeah,
yeah, and he gives me. We talk about engineering stuff, and he gives me the latest copies that come to his work. He works for Alcoa here in Binjara, and he's an engineer, and he gets me the latest Engineering Australia mags.
All right.
yeah. I'm gonna have to go through Nightbot with you, Julie, because your Nightbot is driving me crazy.
with that command
Yeah,
thing, I know.
yeah. He's doing my nutting. I'll go through Nightbot with you when you've got time.
Okay,
He's doing my
that sounds
nutting.
good.
Keep coming up with that crap all the while.
Yes.
Okay, let's
He's
crack on.
prey-
More questions.
he's preying on my OCD.
No one's got any more yet, but let me have a look. I wanted to try and touch on something else too, and I'm sure we brought it up before, but what's it called again? Internet myths that come alive, such as
Zozo
um,
the demon.
Zozo, Slenderman, all of these other things that people
Mothman.
create and then people run with them and claim black and blue that they're real and they're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
What
Do
are
you
your
do,
opinions?
do you realise that Zozo and Slenderman were only 3 months apart in creation?
I remember when the Zozo thing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually
They,
Slenderman too.
they made their internet debuts 3 months apart. Now, Slenderman was actually as a result of a publishing company was looking for a character for a new horror comic, and he was the winner of that competition. He was one of the entries that won. That's the origins of Slenderman. And Zozo the Demon was done by, and I'm going to say it and probably upset people, an attention seeker who was a big fan of Led Zeppelin. All of the myth and symbology surrounding Zozo can be taken right back to Led Zeppelin album covers and stuff. And what a lot of people don't realise, I've actually got a link somewhere to the very original post, because it was first discussed on a creepypasta type ghost story forum,
Oh,
and I've got it on my other computer. I'll have to power my computer up and find it. And his story changed so many times during the following months of what happened and how it happened. Both of
yeah.
them are complete myths, both of them. And they were literally created 3 months apart in 2009.
It's amazing what people will believe without actually
Yeah.
seeing evidence. That's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, Jay's mother's just popped in.
Good morning, Brett.
JSC.
That's my son's mother.
Oh, hello. Thank you for coming in.
Hello.
And when I say hi, Jules, I'm talking to her and not Julie.
Not me. Fine.
Okay.
Another Julie.
Good to know.
Here. Hi, Julie.
Barry just put up drop bears.
Drop bird.
Yeah.
I wanted to know with all the Zozo and the Slenderman and all of that stuff. Now I know that it is powered by the people and their imaginations, because it's the people out there that read these things and run with them because they know they're real. Do you think there is a possibility that if say an abundant amount of people put energy into something, it can make it actually happen or appear? Or do you think that it's just a bunch of bollocks?
It's been done. It's been done. There was
Power
a
of
very
suggestion.
there's a very famous experiment in 1976 where a bunch of psychologists got together and paranormal hobbyists, and they created an entity called Philip. They started trying to communicate with Philip and nothing happened. So they went back to the drawing board and they sat down and they created a complete back history for Philip, his entire life and everything, to the point where they all started to believe Philip was real. And within days, Philip was not only communicating on Ouija boards, he was coming through spirit boxes and all sorts. And they actually created Philip from scratch.
Wow.
And that's a
Well,
very
We've done
famous
that.
experiment in 76.
it's funny you
Yep.
mentioned Philip because we get Philip all the time. We still don't know who he is.
Yeah, but
But even
that was the exact purpose of the experiment. They wanted to find out if enough people could generate something to the point that it came into existence, and they proved that it did. But it only worked once they fully believed that Philip was real. They had to convince themselves that Philip had been a person, even though he wasn't. He was totally fictitious, and he started to communicate with them and interact with them physically.
Power of the mind, hey?
Yeah, yeah.
I say it a lot, and I'll say that
Yeah.
again.
It's crazy, isn't
I
it?
think there was a lot
Yeah.
of that
For
stuff.
those that are just for those that are new to the room, hello and welcome. I'm wearing sunglasses because my sinuses have flared up with all the rain and pollen here in Western Australia, and I'm become very light sensitive. So I'm trying to stave off a migraine. That's why I'm wearing these sunnies. Thank you. Sorry, Sam, you were saying, honey?
I think there was a lot of similar sort of experiments throughout the scroll experiment. You know,
Yeah.
where 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 it seemed like they what they were doing was actually conjuring something out of basically nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you've got to ask yourself is like when you go back to medieval times, like when the witch hunts and stuff were going on, was it because there was so much mass hysteria and belief in these things that the witches were basically supposedly creating? And let's be honest, 99.9% of them weren't witches; they were just local herbs women and stuff.
Yeah.
Was
Yep.
it the local communities who were actually generating this stuff rather than the people they were accusing of?
Yeah.
Totally
And
by their belief in it
if you
existing.
dislike somebody long enough, hard enough, and bad enough,
Yeah,
and you've got to feed hate
yeah,
as an emotion and a psychology, you
yeah,
turn them in for anything, any
yeah,
reason whatsoever.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And fairies just put on fairy. We're simpatico here. Mind control. We've touched on that before with army experiments going back to the 30s and 40s,
yeah, yeah,
and probably even earlier.
yeah,
But
You
yeah,
know,
back in the time of like the witch hunts and things like that too, there was a lot of those in control were going around to some individuals, weren't they, and saying, well, you're going to come forward and you're going to, out this
yeah,
person for witchcraft,
yeah,
or we're going to take down
yeah,
your family.
yeah.
So they
that's
were,
right.
A lot
yeah,
of people were accused, believe it or not, was because one, it was either they were already in a feud with the neighbours,
hmm
or the neighbours wanted their land, so they claimed they were a witch to get them out the way and claim the land.
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Hmm.
Oh yeah, human nature. Never underestimate it.
No,
Have you
it's
got another question?
no, not really. All the other ones were just little things like someone asked investigating the paranormal is evil. The Ouija board is evil. Like
Oh,
all,
God.
you
I think
know,
we covered that.
people.
We covered
Yeah,
that
We
last
covered
week,
it.
didn't we?
we pretty much did. Um, I think Jazzy asked before, what's the difference between a séance and using a Ouija board? Well, pretty much only the process of
Nothing.
the
Basically,
investigation.
Nothing.
One's a
No.
board and one's
just people.
involving candles and things. Yeah.
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 That's pretty much all that I have here at the moment.
I mean, going back to your topic, I think it was last week or the week before about symbolism, pentagrams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are not an evil symbol and never were.
No.
The
No.
church or churches or organised religion in a broad have turned it into something that is, you see it all the time, everywhere in life. Symbolism, like if you look into the history of it, it is not what you think it was. The Nazi swastika goes back centuries and centuries through multiple cultures through time. We remember it as something, for want of a better expression, in a negative context because of what recent history. But if you go back and research into these symbols, then you're going to find the truth of what they actually originally were for. The fact that somebody else has adopted them, there's a perfect example. Somebody who would take your intellectual property or a video and do something with it and put it back on your channel as though there was something wrong with it, or they pick something up and mess with your intellectual property when it wasn't filmed that way, it wasn't recorded that way, it didn't happen, and yet that person's claiming something occurred.
Yeah.
Hey, butterfly.
Yeah, that kind of brought me back to the photograph thing. I noticed that someone the other day, and I won't mention names, put a photograph up, and it was of a screenshot from one of my videos, and they had something circled from it. And I went through my footage and that, and what was circled actually turned out to just be a tree branch. It was nothing more. Yeah, it was a tree branch. It wasn't a spirit.
Yeah.
But that's
Yep.
the thing. I mean, a lot of these photos and that are out there today, they either zoom them right in or they turn the pixelization right down. So they're that grainy that you can't make anything out.
Yeah.
And you
You can
can't,
imply anything.
yeah, you can't claim that as paranormal evidence if it's not clear and defined.
I always say in this day and age, if people are showing you grainy footage of anything, suspect it straight away, because there is
Absolutely.
absolutely no reason in this day and age to not have high quality HD images. Your phone can produce them. Literally, your phone can produce some as almost as good as a DSLR camera.
True.
And the reason they knock the resolutions down is because the lower the resolution, the higher the chance of pareidolia.
Yes.
It's directly correlated, because the lower the resolution, the less detail. Things that are crystal clear that could be a tombstone suddenly look like shadowy, misty figures when all they are is a stone angel or something in a churchyard. It's
Absolutely.
amazing. It's
And
amazing how just changing the resolution of a picture can change what the human eye perceives. Absolutely fantastic the way it works.
Problem too
Oh, yeah.
with night vision is, the digital age has brought pictures, great quality and that, but actually the one thing that the digital technology hasn't caught up with yet is with night vision technology, and
Yeah.
that is why
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
US military are still using the tubes, the night vision. I can't remember what you got. The tubes. analog tubes, basically, that older cameras, and
Hmm.
I can't remember the names of the the monoculars and stuff like that. They're all
Yeah.
still made from the analog tubes. Digital technology hasn't mastered that yet. So
Yeah.
a lot of these images that we're seeing, very often, a lot of them have been at a very great distance, and when you start zooming in stuff, you're starting to lose quality there. So it's
Hmm.
very difficult.
I've been doodling. Look, Julie, make of that what you will.
It looks like Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've been doing. I've just been
It's an
sitting here
eye with an
doodling, and
eyebrow.
yeah,
Look like an upside down leak.
yeah.
All right.
I've just been doodling.
Automatic
Uh,
drawing.
Jackie
Yeah.
Evelyn has one more question for us.
Yeah, go.
Sometimes spirits think we are the ghost and they are the living. Why do we not see spirits from the future? And is it to do with
Oh, she asked that
time
earlier. I wanted to
not
answer
being
that and
linear?
forgot about it.
Yeah.
Right, my response to that is, who's saying we're not seeing spirits from the future? You know, a
Exactly.
lot of these people who suddenly describe, these encounters with what they believe are aliens. They describe, as tall, beautiful people. Who's to say they are not what the human race will become thousands of years down the line?
Time is a
And
human constraint.
yeah, and who's
Got
to say
nothing.
then they haven't developed the technology to break the speed of light, and then where time travel is technically possible? They may not be aliens. With some of these cases where people are seeing these glowing figures and stuff, who's to say that they're not somebody from the future coming back for an holiday or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've asked recently. I've asked a number of times. Are you dead or is it me? And
Hmm.
sometimes they get that we're dead, and
Yeah,
sometimes they say that I'm dead. You
yeah,
know, and sometimes they say we're living.
yeah,
But at the same time, that information that we get through that kind of communication, we can't put it down as gospel because we still are not. We're not
no,
having the two-way conversation
hmm,
enough to get the
yeah,
fundamental questions answered. Very
yeah,
often we create more questions by doing this. You know,
yeah.
rather than having questions answered, we create more questions.
No, no, nobody can say with any hand on heart that anything they have ever got, they can say with certainty that it was a communication from somebody who was either dead or not human or anything else through the radio. All you can say is it appears something is communicating, and it appears that something intelligent is communicating. But
Yeah.
we get that undeniable proof, nobody can say with 100% certainty that anything we put up isn't just us deluding ourselves.
Well,
Mm.
what we base our work on is from people like Bachi, people like Frederick Jurgensen,
Yeah.
people like that. We believe in what they do, but we
Hmm.
don't get the same results. Now, people like Bachi, they called him an
From
electronic medium.
electronic media.
Yeah, and these people that are in these rooms once a week would swear blind that the voices that they heard were the voices of their dead children or dead husband, and
Hmm.
FBI software was used to, in one particular case, to 97% make a match with that person that was communicated with their living voice.
Yeah.
And that's what we go. That's what we go on.
Hmm.
Um, but who knows in the future? With future technology, can some of this stuff be debunked? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
See, I,
Just
I,
Yeah.
I honestly believe that our next big advance is not going to be technology based. I think it's going to be to do with intuition and stuff. it's gonna be a breakthrough on something biological, some inert ability we've actually got already.
Yes.
I don't, I do believe we're still gonna get technological breakthroughs in it, but I think the next real big thing is gonna come via the intellectual rather than the technological.
And you've got to also remember a lot of the technology, yes, it's going ahead leaps and bounds, the reality is every piece of technology that is out there for the general public use today has a research basis in the military.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yes,
I don't know how many people know this, but most people claim, and there is apparently evidence to back this up, that a lot of our technology, and particularly night vision technology, is as a direct result of what they recovered at Roswell in 1947. And they basically, the people who claim this have basically got a paper trail to prove this.
Try to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
Night vision
I've heard that
technology
before.
dates back to Roswell.
Yeah,
Because if you notice from 1947 onwards, say, the start of the 50s, after the war, we had a massive technological advance. Now they could say, yeah,
Oh, yes.
America had a lot of the German
German
scientists and
science.
stuff, but a lot of it, still wouldn't explain the huge jump of exactly how much new stuff came through, sort of thing. And it came
Yeah.
through working, whereas had it been from the war, they would have been using it in the war to win the war. It came just after, and they have a paper
Yeah.
trail right the way back to 1947, where they claim that is where infrared night technology came from. There is a
I've heard
direct
that many,
link
many times.
back to Roswell. True or not, I don't know, but apparently, there's
I don't know.
proof out there with the paper trail to show you that it links right back.
well, it definitely came from the U.S. military.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where they got it is up for debate, I suppose.
Hmm.
But apparently, some of the elements that make up the night vision technology actually have to grow it.
Have a
It's
what? Sorry?
you have
Yeah,
to grow. You have to
yeah,
grow it.
yeah,
The
Grow it?
yeah.
yeah, I can't remember.
Organic technology. A lot of the stuff they're developing now is organic
Oh, right.
technology.
It's
I've heard
something.
that.
It's something in
Yeah,
the
nanoprobes that are programmed to
Now
grow.
that their technology, that they're claiming now that it's organic technology. It's
I've heard
basic.
that.
It's basically
I know.
organic.
Yeah.
The build-up of it. There's no
Mm.
silicon or anything in it at all. It's living technology.
It's living technology.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very light sensitive as well, and that's why you
yeah,
have to have the caps on it, and no two pieces of, no two night vision goggles of those analog tubes
hmm,
are exactly the same. But there's something
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember
It's,
the information, but you had to grow some of the element in this technology.
yeah,
well, the
Wow.
fluorescence.
yeah,
You'd
Something
have
like
that
that.
had come from marine animals that DNA that glow. Any sort of animal that glows in the
yeah.
dark, they would need to have.
Bioluminescent. Bioluminescent.
Thank you. That's the word I was searching for in my mind. Yes.
Right.
Tony's asked an interesting question. I don't know what Sam's response is going to be to this
I was
question.
hoping that it passed, but yeah, right.
What about Sasquatch? Real, or is it like another Dogman or Mothman? Go on, Sam. Say
Um,
it. You know you're dying to.
again, evidence. You know, evidence.
We're
You
waiting for
know.
the big smelly hairy ape comment.
Do you know? Yes. The problem is things are getting more and more difficult. The more we advance in technology, the
Yeah,
more people are become attention seekers and fake some of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So we're going to come to a stage where what's real and what's fake. You know,
yeah, Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. Sometimes people make these claims for attention seeking, and
Yeah.
you can do
I
pretty tricky stuff on
yeah.
computers
I am of the
nowadays.
belief that the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yahweh, whatever you want to, Yeti, Abominable Snowman, I believe that they are a real phenomena. I don't believe they are indigenous to this reality. I personally subscribe to the theory, which is quite common amongst Bigfoot enthusiasts now, that Bigfoot is actually an interdimensional thing, more so than indigenous to this reality. I think they have the ability to pop in and out of this reality.
I don't know. I don't know what to think of them. I mean, I kind of look back on it and go, well, they're being seen all over the world in different versions, so maybe there's something to it, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it.
Yes, yes, Jackie, and that's the point. You have got to be
Yeah.
skeptical, because if you
Yeah.
if you're prepared to swallow every story, you're going to end up as a very gullible person in the paranormal. You have got to maintain. I believe in ghosts. I believe people have heard ghostly growls. I ain't saying
Yep.
they're devils, but I do believe they have occurred at
I believe in
various times.
aliens.
I don't believe in Mothman. I do believe in the
No.
aliens. I
Yep.
do believe in UFOs, and I do
Yep.
believe in Bigfoot. But saying all that, I don't believe every single story of every one of them categories that have come out.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt.
The
Yep.
Yeah, the problem is a mass hysteria.
Yeah,
Where somebody gets a sighting and then they decide, well, they're
Yeah.
getting
yeah,
attention over in
yeah,
America here. Let's
Yep.
have some, you
yeah.
know, um, the human mind. There's a lot of attention
Mhm.
seekers out there, and they
Yeah,
will, you know,
yeah,
they'll pick up some ideas from another country and say, well, it's time to have the attention on me. I'm going to claim that I've seen Bigfoot riding a
hmm
bicycle
Mm.
through the
yeah.
forest.
Even in the subjects you believe in, like ghosts and UFOs, which I believe in both, you've still got to approach it with a skeptical viewpoint. Just because you believe in that they occur doesn't mean that every report or every story or every video you see is the genuine thing. And to be honest with you,
No.
it's called paranormal for a reason, because 99% of them that you do see aren't real.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to try and start or try and reset yourself at a clean sheet rather
Hmm.
than polluting yourself with other people's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
theories.
yeah,
Believe what you experience yourself,
yeah,
and then you get that picture for yourself. Rather than basing things of other people's beliefs. I guess
yeah,
some of them may
Mm.
be okay in that,
yeah,
but when it comes to the paranormal, I've experienced things. I've experienced orbs moving
yeah.
on request, which I
Hmm.
didn't believe before, but I believe
Hmm.
it now because I've experienced that.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
can add that onto the list of
yeah,
orbs having some sort of intelligence.
yeah,
I can believe that because
yeah,
I've seen it for myself.
Yeah.
So every so often reset yourself to have a clean sheet,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's why sometimes I don't watch a huge amount of paranormal stuff because we have people like Rachel who doesn't look at paranormal content at all, and
Yeah,
that is one of my best tools in the field. Is having Rachel on an investigation.
yeah.
Because
See, you've got to maintain fluidity through the entire paranormal journey, because
Oh, yeah.
you know for me, I'll give you a perfect example. For me, I used to be a diehard believer in the Loch Ness monster when I was younger. I was convinced there was a monster in that lake. Now I am a fence sitter regarding the Loch Ness monster.
Mm.
I believe if there is something in that lake, it's not in there all the while. It's got some way of getting in and out. Now, apparently, the loch is connected to the sea by an underwater tunnel. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But after watching scientific stuff on the fish lakes, the fish stock surveys and stuff they've done on that loch.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, for such a big loch, Loch Ness has got an extremely low fish stock population, to the point that it could not allow, and they've worked out it wouldn't, if there are plesiosaurs or something like that, or anything biological, they would need a minimum population of 23 to sustain themselves. And there is no way the fish stocks in Loch Ness. There is no way
Poor
the fish
Evelyn,
stocks in Loch
yeah.
Ness could support 23 fully grown plesiosaurs in any way,
Couldn't
shape, or
contain
form.
one, let alone, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
if there are
so
more than one
I
in there,
believe
why
if
haven't
there
they
is something in that
reproduced?
lock, yeah, if there's
You,
something in that lock, it's transitory.
you broke Evelyn.
She's shattered. We've shattered poor Evelyn. We've got to put her
Yeah.
back together now.
My
No,
channel is kind of,
honestly, Evelyn, I was one of the biggest supporters of the Loch Ness monster. I kid you not. Now I'm a fence sitter. I'm just there could possibly be something there, but it's not there all the time.
my
Well,
channel's a really good example of that, because if you go back to my very first few live streams and that and watch them, you'll see that from the things that I believed in or thought were real
Yeah.
compared to what I believe in and think now, I've come a really long way. But I have
Oh
learnt a
yeah.
lot in the process from other people as
Yeah.
well.
See,
So,
I haven't took Jack's monster. I've took the Loch Ness monster away from it, but I actually believe in Bigfoot. I believe Bigfoot is real. I just don't believe
mm.
it's indigenous to to our reality. I believe it visits rather than lives here.
What
That's just
about
my belief.
fairies and gnomes? They're asking.
Well, yeah, I believe there is an elemental side to the paranormal. I ain't saying they're your Disney winged little, um, you know, Tinkerbell type things, but I do believe there are elemental entities of various energy forms that are out there. Sam, you're Irish.
um, there's a lot of myths and legends surrounding uh, that sort
Sorry.
of thing, especially fairy forts.
Hmm.
We had one incident where the electricity company called ESB put up some, or the telephone company, can't remember which, put up these poles alongside the road for cables and stuff like that, and everything was fine until they got to the ferry fort, and the poles just kept falling down. They just wouldn't
Yeah,
stay up.
yeah,
You know, and obviously you have to put them flipping down right, like, you know, otherwise you're going to endanger the public and that. But
yeah,
right coming along towards the ferry fort, these poles kept falling over and stuff like that. It's very much feared and stuff. Now, I got an EVP once on the top of a top of a mountain where there's an army fort.
I
I
remember it. I
visited.
remember that day.
Now, I had just finished watching the day before Elemental Encounters, and it sort of fed my mind. Maybe there is another side to this as well. So that was going through my mind as I was going into this investigation, and I done a Spurt box session, and quite clearly it says I'm a gnome. Now,
Yeah, it did.
one thing that doesn't make sense to me is why are gnomes communicating in English? But was it my mind that recreated that? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know. But
yeah,
it doesn't. What? Who on the radio is going to say I'm a gnome? I don't know.
yeah,
You know. So I don't know. Now I have seen stuff around my own home when I was a kid and stuff that I can't explain. You
yeah,
know, I would put down as paranormal, and it makes me think that there is another side to that,
yeah,
rather than
yeah,
just
Mhm.
just just ghosts. You know.
yeah. Deb?
Yeah.
I agree with what Sam touched on about elementals. There is a side to the paranormal, which is a big umbrella term for, in my mind, things that we can't explain. I subscribe to elementals being part of this dimension, this reality. Do they exist here full time? I'm dubious or skeptical, put it that way. They could very well be interdimensional beings.
I believe they're here all the while because I believe they're actually linked to the various elements on the planet.
If they're attracted to electromagnetic energy and they are energy, then absolutely, this planet is right for their home.
Back in a sec. Charles, I just set fire to myself.
He's just set fire to himself.
Burning his balls.
Great balls of fire!
Goodness gracious!
Great balls of fire!
Da, 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 da. Look, Ma, they're on fire.
Yeah.
When you think about elementals, you could drag Bigfoot and some of them things into that spectrum. Things, you know.
I believe that there are other, beings out there. I think that I probably believe in fairies as well. I don't know how many of the elementals, only because I've always been more of a I need evidence kind of thing, like Sam touched on earlier too, and need to see it or need evidence of it. So I kind of have the belief that they exist, but I'm kind of a bit skeptical about it as well. So,
and that's a more than valid point. That's a good way to be. You can allow for the existence or the potential of it, but you've yet to be convinced like 100%.
Yeah.
And use the example of Brett with his Loch Ness monster. What he used to think, what he thinks now.
I set fire to myself.
You're going to have to teabag over a bucket of water.
Sorry. And then Jace rang me while I was smoking. Sorry, I was trying to put myself out and talk to Chad to the phone at the same time.
Honey, I'm thinking of you. I've got bowls of fire.
I'm like, Jace, of all the times to bloody ring, I'm on alive, on fire, and you're on the phone.
What's for dinner tonight, darling? Spaghetti and meatballs.
Well done.
Sorry
about that.
Well, at least we've touched on elementals, which I'm always glad to do because I can believe through my own experiences and the reading and research that I've done coming through Wicca. And Indigenous culture or any native culture to subscribe to the fact that there are elementals here. And they've always been here. I can't provide you any evidence. I think I've said this before when it comes to elementals. I can't provide you any evidence.
Yeah.
It's due to personal experience, which I, again, can't provide any evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own, as I always say, do your own research. As I've suggested before, if you want to start looking at a linear cultural symbol, all the things we've touched on in the last month or so, start with the Dogon. There's really good information on YouTube about the Dogon and their cosmology and beliefs and symbolism, and start from there. Go through every known culture and the unknown civilizations that are no longer here, but they're finding evidence more and more of their existence. Don't just pick up an anthropological book or something by an academic because you think they're an expert. They know exactly the same things you do. You probably know more than somebody who's just stuck with tunnel vision. They will stick to a particular timeline. They will stick to a particular mythology and push it as fact. Doesn't not make it fact.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Fairies just mentioned Leak Castle there. There is apparently an elemental link there. They believe it's linked back to the Druids because there is actually an ancient Druidic temple on the site of Leak Castle where they believe it was used to indoctrinate the Druids as they gained their status. That was where they were taken to do it, and they believe that the elemental was placed as a guardian on the temple, on the Druid temple, and it's literally right next door to Leak Castle. And I am determined either this year or next year to go over to Leak Castle, and I'm dragging Sam with me. It is the one place in Ireland I want to go to. Is Leak Castle.
Two opportunities to do Leap Castle, and I was sick both times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm planning on dragging you to Leak Castle, Sam.
Yeah.
That's the one that I mentioned last week or the week before, wasn't it? Where I said the mythology or symbolism around the Leak Castle was that a stranger invited him, came knocking on the castle door one night when it was raining and thundering and lightning and miserable, and they invited the fellow in, got him some dry clothes, fed him, so forth. They were sitting down playing cards later that evening, and the daughter had become quite smitten with the stranger.
Yeah.
But when she dropped the card and bent down, the stranger had hooves and a goat lower body. And when she screamed and brought the attention of the other family members and guests to that, it took off through the roof, and there's still the hole in the roof where apparently the devil sat down and played cards and shot off through the roof in a supernatural way.
Yeah, that's right. She noticed he'd got cloven feet under the table while he was playing cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went on. That place went on.
It would later be, and it later became a nunnery, and apparently a number of the nuns, that particular sisterhood, there were suicides, pregnancies, there were all sorts of weird and wondrous stories that came out of the nunnery, and that's when the church sold it off and it went into private hands. So the stories around Leak Castle are, again, mythology, folklore, call it what you want.
It's on the market at the moment, something like
Evelyn's onto it.
Yeah.
1 million or 1.5 million, I can't remember which. But the current owner decided to pass it on. I think they tried to make a hotel out of it and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great hotel, like, you know, when you're investing that amount of money, you need to sort of do something with it, sort of thing, rather than having it just sitting there, you know. So you need to make something from your investment, you know.
Yeah. The time that I saw it, the first time that I saw it, was when the Ghost Adventures crew don't all come at me at once about that. It was many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
When Nick was still there, so don't. Yeah. Anyway, the upshot was that that's the first time that I heard about Leak Castle, because they did they did a urban exploration there, shall we say, and that's when I heard and looked it up and read some more on it. The same as anything that we raise here, as I always say, do your own research. We're always happy to give links. Look for this on YouTube, or a lot of the stuff that I talk about with the Electric Universe. They have a fantastic site on YouTube, and there is a bunch of information there. And make your own mind up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with Leap
Yeah.
Castle at the moment is it is on the market, but the current owner didn't realise how much it took to. He's a building contractor, but he actually
Yeah.
had to do a course to restore the staircase, and that staircase cost. I can't remember how much it cost. Was it 25 or 40 something thousand quid? It cost a lot of money anyway. That's just to do the staircase, and he had to do a course in antique restoration to actually
Yeah.
restore this staircase.
It's heritage listed.
And it was advised that somebody who was to buy this property at the price of £1 million or 1.5 million would need a considerable amount of extra money to get it into a proper state. You know,
Yeah.
so we may see in the future that a hotel might take this over, and we may not be able to do anything with it anymore in a paranormal sense. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but it'll need a lot still further.
The good thing about Leap Castle
A
though
lot
is
of
it's the
restoration.
surrounding area as well as the castle.
Mm. Mm. Same as the Hellfire Club. I mean, the amount of people that go there and believe the mythology around Aleister Crowley, and I just want to shoot the TV.
Yeah.
Look into Aleister Crowley. He was never a devil worshipper.
Mm.
You know, he was branded by the church and others as the most evil man that ever lived, and blah blah. BS.
The most wicked man on the planet is what they called him.
There was rumours that the Hellfire Club in Dublin was to be turned into some sort of museum or a heritage
Really?
centre or something like that. Yeah, that they were going to do something with it. Yeah. Whether that's true or not,
That'll be interesting if they do.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know. You know.
I mean,
You all right, Julie?
Yeah. Just keep going.
yeah. She's been having a chat with the chat.
Mute myself.
I don't know what's going on there.
She's lost
We're
it.
just gonna. We'll just carry on.
We don't know exactly what we're laughing at.
Now she's the next. She's
See,
gone
folks,
back
this
to
is the
being-
pressures of streaming.
She's self-flagellating there by smacking herself on a bum or a thigh or something. Oh, she's gone again. Yeah, Luna, I'm wearing sunnies because my eyes are sensitive to light at the moment because I'm trying to stave off a migraine.
Oh, that was funny. Whew, when I get tired, I get the giggles. You set me off and I'm gone.
No, humor's a bit. Yay! MCAT's in the house.
AM Cat.
How you going, mate? Ugh. So what else? Oh, the other topic that you wanted to talk about, Julie, was ethics and morality in the paranormal.
Oh yeah, we don't cover that.
Yes.
No, we haven't got there yet.
So we
There is no morality in the paranormal.
Well, this is the problem. No, well, there had been certain things that I had heard, and I wanted to discuss what people's takes are on the etiquette and, I guess, the moralities of investigating. Like, for instance, in some parts of the world, there are some people who believe that going into a cemetery and running a spirit box, for example, is disrespectful. I, however, don't think it's disrespectful as long as you're not doing it in front of someone who's grieving, as long as you're not breaking anything or walking over graves, I don't see an issue with it. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Well, instead of poles, we're now dealing with balls on fire. I think they're called comets, aren't they? Just a thought.
I've got no problem with people going into graveyards. I don't think it's disrespectful at all.
Yeah,
The
no.
thing I've got, one of my biggest problems I do have is people who get confrontational on investigations when they start ranting and raving and getting abusive to try and elicit a response from somebody or something. That to me is where the ethics line gets crossed.
Yes,
Yes.
good point.
And when other so-called paranormal investigators do exactly the same thing and then will mention potentially another channel that they're competing with for subs and views and say, oh, well, I watched a video with so-and-so and they were in a graveyard and I find that disrespectful. And yet only 2 weeks earlier, they were in there doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my opinion. It is not disrespectful. Yes, if there was a funeral, you use common sense and decency in these things.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I like about with Jackie and Julie's videos, for example, they introduce themselves. Now, if there's an appropriate etiquette, that is, you're walking into a space that you want to do something with.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's like meeting somebody for the first. You introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's an etiquette to be had, then as soon as you walk in past the gate or the entry point, say good morning, good evening, spirits, whatever languages you feel is appropriate, and say my name is, whatever. I'm here to communicate with anyone who wishes to communicate with me. And, that's an appropriate thing to do.
Yeah. See, when I do it, I always do a brief history of the place as well. The first thing I do when I do an outside investigation is do a rundown of the history of the place. Because then, if anything happens, it gives people context to it. Rather than you having to stand there when some happens and go, oh, and by the way, this place, blah, 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 blah. I'd rather do it at the beginning so people know if something happens, what the relevance of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen other video channels, and particularly out of the US, some of the smaller ones that are growing, where the guy spent 45 minutes to an hour of the investigation doing history and interviewing people. I mean, that's fine, but if you're in the editing process, if it's the same story over and over again, you don't have to revalidate that history. It will speak for itself.
Yeah.
But you don't have to spend a lot of time on it.
The best thing to do with that in that respect is if you interview people and they're telling a story, you're best to keep cutting between the different people, but keep the narrative flowing.
Yeah,
correct.
So you get one story but multiple people telling it rather than the same story over and over and over again.
Exactly.
That is the best way to deal with that.
It was painful. You'd have been better off watching lawn bowls or grass growth.
Yeah.
It was really, really painful. I understood what he was doing in the intent, but the outcome was just a little bit too dragged on.
Yeah.
But but I really hate it when hate. I don't hate. Hate is too strong a word. I dislike and find it part of the current fad, if you like, in the paranormal realm, where everybody's fighting and bitching and carrying on like pork chops and having to go at different channels and different people and arguing with their followers. And then their followers attack the other people's followers, and
Mm-hmm.
really, really, that's what you want to generate for people to come watch you?
Mm.
Sad.
Yeah,
Just sad.
there needs to be more structure in the community. More people need to get along, and the people that um, don't want to be a part of the community, then they need to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're here to do
Yeah.
paranormal, do paranormal,
The thing
and
is, we're,
do it right.
over here, and Sam will back up for me. We've got people over here whose channel is solely based around picking on certain people. That is their
Yeah.
channel content,
Yeah.
and 9 times out of 10, especially the ones who are swarming around the peripheral of the paranormal community, don't actually contribute anything to the paranormal community itself. They
Mm-hmm.
just leech off the community and pick fights with them, and then their entire channels will be based off the content of them having some kind of ping pong battle with one another over something.
Oh,
And
how
and, and that,
juvenile.
that that's what we need to do. We need to distance ourselves from them, let them carry on with their little dramas and stuff, and just keep our channel solely based on the paranormal.
And trying to grow it with
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah, well,
and facts.
Go on,
yeah.
Sam. You're dying to say something.
Yeah, I'm going back to the cemeteries and stuff.
Mm.
I'm actually on the border of Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and there's two
Mhm.
Yep.
different two different mindsets here. In Southern Ireland, it's largely Catholic, and sort of the going into the cemetery and doing spirit box sessions for some people can be a little bit iffy. There was a guy I know. He got an awful hard time over a spirit box session in a modern cemetery and stuff, which wouldn't happen sort of here, you know.
Mhm.
But I think the overall morality of it is intention. What's your intentions on doing a spirit box session? Is
Yeah.
it to get attention for yourself, or to communicate with that spirit?
Exactly.
The other
Exactly.
the other side to it is to faking. If you
Oh,
fake
here we go.
events, you're accusing spirits of doing something that they clearly didn't do, and very often the fakery is on a negative side. So you're
Yeah.
accusing spirits of doing something negative that they didn't do. And
Yeah.
I actually sometimes when I see that uh, I'm saddened by it at times. You know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hey, Sandra, how are you, dear?
Hey, Sandra. Yes, as I just said, I would love to see the ones that are genuinely here for the paranormal. I would love to see more unity amongst the channels, because in the long run, it's not about how fast you can grow or how many subs you
Yeah.
can get. It's about the paranormal.
See,
And if we,
this is my point, and Sam will tell you exactly the same. My channel is the least important thing to me. My channel is just used as a platform to discuss my hobby. I am not based around my channel. My channel is based around me and my
Yeah.
hobby, and
Mhm.
that's the
Yeah.
difference. You've got people who do it for the paranormal, and then you've got people who do paranormal for a YouTube channel, and that's
Mm.
where the distinctions lie.
Mm. But there's
Right.
so much that we can learn off each other,
Yeah,
and as a
there is.
greater community, if
Yeah,
we all
Yeah.
kind of, unified.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Then
Unification's
that,
a tricky process,
Yeah,
because you, you you're always going to get confrontation. You're going to get
Hmm.
confrontation
yeah,
on the fact that the paranormal hasn't got, it's not black and white. You know, it's
no,
not a yes and no.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
whole spectrum in between, and there's
yeah. Totally agree with that.
so many different beliefs there.
Hmm.
We got four people here on the panel tonight, and we could have completely different mindset to certain
Well, we do.
things.
Yeah.
You know,
We do.
and we do unify,
Mm.
but that's we worked on that.
Mm-hmm.
But as other people, are they able to do that? But then again, you have other people that do things that are pretty dodgy, but they believe it's okay.
Yeah. And the worst part is the doing the dodgy stuff, the fake stuff, gets them more views because they got that creep factor, or we
Yeah.
could all rattle a half a dozen or a dozen just without even blinking an eye.
Mm.
But they're the ones that are getting big sub numbers
Yeah.
because it's purely, and if you drop the box and read their channel, it states clearly it's for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you
Where
got
The thing is, we've got to accept in this field on YouTube, if you are a paranormal channel that is genuinely interested in the paranormal, you are not ever going to get the sub figures that these big entertainment channels are. You're just not ever.
Correct.
no,
but
because you're not feeding the misconceptions,
Yeah.
because the mass mindset is geared in one direction for the growl, everything that we've covered
Yeah.
tonight, where those that are truly interested in expanding the paranormal, like with Brett and Julie and Sam's channels, they're truly interested in expanding and sharing knowledge, experience.
Who's talking?
I'm
I
going,
don't know.
but I'm not talking.
I can hear talking every time Deb says something. There's somebody talking in the background.
I've been hearing an echo.
No, it ain't an echo. They're saying something entirely different to what you're saying.
Sam, what is it?
no, don't know. I actually didn't hear it, so
Don't you hear it?
no. But I will go back on it and see.
I can't hear it now.
Yeah.
I was going to say before, wouldn't it be interesting? Like, I know that you would still have conflict to some degree, but if you stripped away the monetary side of YouTube, it would be interesting to see how the community dynamics would change.
It wouldn't, because all they'd do, they'd just then go on to Patreon and stuff like that. The only way they could get away, and I've said this all along, they should demonetize the entire YouTube platform.
That's what I mean.
And basically, if you make any mention to PayPal or Patreon or anything on your channel, you lose it. That is the only way they're going to do it.
And they won't do that. They're
No.
making too much.
You got
It's a
to,
business
we've
model.
got to accept the fact YouTube is a business.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's not a favour to us. It is a business, and
Yeah.
a multi-million-pound business.
The thing about all this hype on getting views and subs with these scary thumbnails which make me cringe, and the titles with poltergeist in them. The thing is, some of that stuff will go out of fashion in 20
Yeah.
years' time. Some of these people
Yeah.
are going to look, I can't believe I done that kind of stuff. That kind
Yeah.
of way. But if you've done a proper investigation, boring as it is, but do all the right things, that becomes timeless. Yes, it will look old in 20 years' time, but because it's genuine, it's timeless in a way. But if you create this scary graveyard, spooky stuff, 20 years time, that people are going to look back
Okay.
and go, "Genie Mag, that's cringy stuff."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see this summer here, Sam, because this is when we normally have our big blockbusters come out movie wise. If there are any big horror movies due out this year, what the next buzzword fad will be. Because
Yeah.
the
I
last
was
one
going
was
to raise that myself.
that bird, was it the birdhouse when she was blindfolded?
Yep.
that was the last one that started to take off over here, and I'm just wondering what big horror blockbusters are due out this year, and then we'll see how it starts to ripple into the YouTube paranormal channels.
That went on for years. That went on before YouTube. Actually,
Yeah,
it goes back to Robert the Doll and Annabelle the Doll.
yeah,
You know, around the time of Annabelle the Doll, there was a horror movie about some sort of doll at that particular time. And
Chucky.
Yes, I was it.
Yeah, Chucky was old. He was what, 80s?
Yeah.
80s, 90s?
80s or 90s, something like that.
Yeah.
80s,
there was some film anyway around the time that Ed Warren was supposedly investigating this.
Yeah.
This
I'm glad you supposedly.
Yeah. You know, I can't remember the name of the film, but people
Conjuring.
I can't remember, but I know, you know, people don't take that into account. There's only a few people that are actually calling these people out.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, what you've just mentioned there, Sam, is a perfect example. You ask the majority of people now, so-called paranormal followers, what happened at the poltergeist event in I'm trying to think, what was it? What was the poltergeist in Liverpool, Sam? The one where it was throwing her over the bed. I'm trying to think what the name of the street was.
Is it the Enfield poltergeist?
The Enfield poltergeist.
Yeah.
If you ask the majority now of paranormal followers what happened with the Enfield poltergeist, they'll tell you that the Warrens went there and sorted it all out.
No, they
didn't. The truth of the matter is the Warrens turned up uninvited. They were there for about 2 hours and they were told to bugger off.
Yep.
But because it's come through on a film now, what happened at the Enfield poltergeist is slowly changing in the minds of people who follow the paranormal community. You know, they forget all about Morris, who was there and did all the investigation, and Morris himself. There's a backstory with Morris. You know, there was a lot went on at the Enfield poltergeist that was not as legit as it should have been, shall we say, due to a number of factors, including the investigators. And you know, but because it's been made into this film by the Warrens, because I presume they've got some kind of financial cut out of it. You know, the entire history of a paranormal event is being changed solely down to media.
Yeah. Yeah, don't believe everything you see, people.
No, definitely not.
No.
And one of the sisters that is willing to talk about the events has written multiple books on it, and she deliberately...
Janet, her name's Janet, believe it or not.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No. Not touching it.
Believe it or not, her name is Janet.
That with the Conjuring House, she is scathing about the Warrens and what happened that night.
Yeah.
Absolutely scathing.
Yeah.
So if people don't do their homework, they watch the movie.
It was reported in the newspapers at the time. It started to get reported on national news. It then went international, so they were reporting it on American TV, and the Warrens just flew from America to England, totally uninvited, just turned up at the house mid-investigation and tried to muscle the way in.
Yeah, because they saw it on the news.
Yeah. And Morris told them to do one after about 3 hours.
I read the original story before.
They were only ever in that house for about 3 hours, and they did no investigation of the Enfield poltergeist whatsoever.
True.
So that entire Conjuring, was it the Conjuring 2? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That entire film is factually inaccurate. The entire film.
Yep.
And yet they start that film off as based on a true story. Yes, the paranormal occurrences were true, but none of the Warrens' involvement was in that film.
Yeah.
Very
and yes, Evelyn, I I have listened to the tapes that
Yeah,
guy.
I've heard the tapes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
Interesting, but yeah. I'm just going to sort of segue a couple of the themes that we've touched on tonight back into a response in this context.
Mhm.
And even before movies, right? You had shows going back, like The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Used to love it when I was a kid because it had that spooky factor. But if you go back through a lot of the now, like you look at Marvel Comics and what's the other franchise? Marvel and MC Universe or something?
DC Comics.
DC, thank you. Thank you. Yep. A lot of the character and themes in comics years ago are now very evident in paranormal shows. I would suggest even perhaps not the word Zozo, but the way a demon manifests itself comes from storylines. You don't even have to read Lovecraft
Yeah.
to talk about alien interdimensional stuff. And yet, his writings and life beliefs and philosophy on life, he was a very racist, very disturbed individual.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Fairy's just put there is a new horror film coming out over the summer called The Quiet Spot about a bridge that you have to be quiet to walk over. So it's going to be very interesting now to see if Goatman Bridge and all that lot suddenly have a great big take off again.
That movie's already been out, but they're bringing out part 2 of that one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
called
So,
a Quiet Place.
So expect a resurgence in Ghostman because in Goatman because the most famous case involving a bridge is the one where Goatman is supposedly seen on. So there's going to be a resurgence in Goatman. I'll guarantee you.
So
Guarantee you.
the bridge is shown at the beginning, but it's not actually about that. So what it's about is like there's these creatures that have taken over. I don't really want to go too far into it and spoil it for anyone, but you got to be quiet because they see you by sound.
Right.
oh,
So they got to creep around everywhere. Yeah.
It's on Netflix at the moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, good movie.
It's right, MCAT. 99% of people who watch paranormal channels are only looking for a jump scare. They're looking for that cheap thrill. That is all a lot of. They've got no real interest as such in the paranormal itself or looking into the paranormal. They never get any farther than the jump scare. That's all they want. That's all they're looking for.
I still
The
say
Burning
they should
Man.
have. I still say they should have separate separate things for this on YouTube. One should be entertainment.
Yeah, but
and
they
that's
won't,
where
a lot of channels won't admit that they're entertainment channels.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
But
You
it's
know,
in their description.
they
If you
fake
drop
it to
the
make
arrow,
themselves out to be genuine.
but it's in their description of what they are. Drop the little icon down on the right, the little arrow, and it comes up all the links and stuff that they say, oh, we'll put it in the description box. Read to the end of the description box. Entertainment only.
Yeah, that has to be put in over here because it's a legal requirement. It's a get out of jail card legally. That's
But
why.
there's your first clue to using rational common sense.
I think it happens in America as well up to a point.
Yep.
Yeah, but the word entertainment is a kind of it doesn't narrow it down very much because we go out to investigations. We people watching, and in a way that's entertainment. Do you know? You know, so there needs to be a sort of a
paranormal bullshit section, basically.
A distinction between fact and fiction, which isn't happening in under entertainment. People will classify their videos as entertainment because possibly that is a better way of getting views out there.
Yeah,
you know?
But then that's exactly Sam how it should be split. There should be 2 categories: paranormal fact and paranormal fiction.
And that's the point that Julie's making, is that they need to be disseminated in some way.
Yeah.
But,
And
you
if
And then
know,
people can make an informed choice.
yeah,
Yeah.
if the creators won't put themselves into the right category, maybe they should leave it up to the viewers to vote on which category they should be in.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I was trying.
that wouldn't work either
Work either.
because these all these big fake channels are basically claiming all the stuff they do is genuine, and all their followers believe them. So their followers would just vote them into the factual. What's it even though it's crap?
Yeah,
And
well,
their enemies will vote. You know, it
Yeah,
can be used like a weapon, like they
yeah, it'll be
like
weaponized. It'll be
like
Yeah, well, look
weaponized.
what
That's the only
happened to
problem.
Kim. She went to criticise it and she got blocked.
Yeah.
you know, the like and dislike button is used as a weapon.
Yes, Jack, I've seen Troll Hunters. It's a good film.
You know,
Well, yes, that lends back to an earlier theme that we touched on with, you know, how the subs or the viewers become like cult followers and or want to attack another channel and they dislike every piece of content that goes up.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, get a life.
Mm.
If
Mhm.
that's
Grow
all
up,
you can
move
focus
on.
on, yeah. I mean,
I always get 2 dislikes on whatever, no matter what video I do. I always get 2 dislikes on it. I'll just laugh it off. It's of no concern to me. You know, it don't bother me if my video don't get any likes, as long as people have watched it and enjoyed it. You know, I don't care whether they like it or not. As long as they've enjoyed what I've done, that's all I'm bothered about.
Mine will
And
start
these
again.
you know,
trolls,
and hopefully they've learned something.
Mine will start
but
again
these
soon.
trolls
And I'm
keep
like,
coming back.
yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
Why do they come back? I mean, I just
Yeah.
shake my head with
This is why
disbelief.
I don't even say to people on my channel during my streams, like and sub. I never ask.
Mm.
You know, if people like your channel enough, they'll come back. You shouldn't have to ask them.
the thing is too, if you get say a couple hundred views on a video, and there's a big high percentage of dislike, maybe people would look at it and say, "Wonder what went on there."
That's what
Let's have a
that's what
look.
happened. Sam,
That's what people should be doing.
Yeah.
I have actually seen that done. I have seen that done, and it was that group that team we were talking about earlier, before the stream started, Julie, and they started a stream off, and they dumped 200 dislikes on the stream the second it started.
What?
So everybody got pulled in, thinking, "Oh, what's going on? This thing's got like a few likes." And as can you remember who it was, Sam? And as the stream went on, the dislikes started to vanish.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Can you remember, Sam?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was
So they
a-
even use the like and dislike system as a marketing tool.
Yeah, and I was told by somebody else that exactly the same thing. What happens is they put on these dislikes, and what happens is they start disappearing. It's the same for views. They start off with a massive amount of views,
Yeah.
and they start tapering off at an even rate. Too even to be actually natural.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's sus. No, we're not naming names, Evelyn.
No,
God.
that's all we need to start.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. This is, I'm not doing
You know,
drama.
I've seen it done. I've actually witnessed the like and dislike system being used as a marketing tool to get people into a live stream because they think there's something controversial going on because he's got such a large amount of dislikes. And then it drags people in. It's easy enough to do if you've got enough of these dummy accounts to do it with. And you will be surprised how some people have got numerous. You know, and it ain't just one or two. Some people can go into 20, 30, 40 separate YouTube accounts they use.
Yeah, I know one person who has a lot of dummy accounts, and
I
they
really couldn't.
they don't know. I know.
Yeah, I really couldn't be asked to do it.
No.
I've got my one account. I tell a lie. I've got 2 accounts. My other one's my private one that I never use.
I'm with MCAT. You shouldn't live your life by likes and dislikes.
No, I never have done, Deb, and that's why I never even bother asking for likes. If you notice on all my streams, I never once say to people like the video. They'll like it if they like it, or they'll ignore it if they don't.
Do you ever see these people that come in and say, "Hello, everybody, I'm just here and I need to go soon," and all the rest of it? And they advertise themselves and then they leave.
Yeah, it's all self promotion.
Why come in if you're just going to say hi, bye?
Yeah.
Or you'll get the ones that they'll come in, sit there for 20 minutes, not say a word, then just go, I'm off, and leave, and then they're moaning to other people. They never even acknowledge, they never spoke to me for the entire 20 minutes I was in there. Well, you've got to interact on the chat to be when you're streaming, you haven't got time to remember all the people who've come into your chat. And if people have took the time to post a comment in your chat thing, they're the ones you're going to respond to, not the ones who are sitting there silent. So if you come into a chat and then say nothing, you can't really complain that the streamer has ignored you. They haven't ignored you, it's just that you haven't interacted. So, they've got nothing to communicate with you over.
Exactly.
Well, the other side of it is sometimes I go onto a stream and say hello to everybody, and then just I want to watch the video. You know what I mean? I don't want to.
But you'll find 99% of people, if they watch a video, at some point they will add a comment of something that they agree or disagree with.
Yeah.
They'll put at least one in there.
But when people don't.
No, they don't. I used to do that with yours. When I'd come in, I'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Then sit back and watch. Just pop a little comment up every now and again. You know, just sit back and watch it.
Yeah, but then you interact with people who are talking in your chat.
Yeah,
you physically cannot be expected to remember every person who's logged in your chat and is sitting there quiet. And like I say, if people have took the time to put a comment in your chat, it's just common decency to respond to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Either in text or in the stream itself.
Yeah, and in a 2-hour stream, I mean, 2 or 3 hour stream, 4 or 5 or 6, it doesn't matter. Even just up until now, we've been going for about just over 2.5 hours. Look at the range of topics that we've talked about.
Yeah.
How often would Julie, as the channel owner, have to focus on the chat to someone that doesn't contribute? What's the point of that?
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no time. You're looking for people that are asking questions based on the topical content that you're dealing with at the time, in that moment.
Yeah. You need to be careful, Pammy, about using too many caps in chat, because Nightbot will time you out otherwise.
Yeah, he will. He'll come in for you.
Well, my boy.
Yeah,
I got no time for that shit.
People sometimes
be an adult or just fuck off. I mean, take off.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah. And the poppers pop in. Oh, I've got
exactly, Jack. You come in and you always comment. You always comment, and other people come in and comment, and it's to me, it's just bloody good manners. If people are taking the time to watch your video and speak to you respond to them. And to be honest, I'll get a shitload of content from my chat. They prompt a lot of discussions on my streams. I'll read the chat and I think, oh yeah, that's a good one to talk about, and I always acknowledge who's brought it up. But if you're going to sit there for an entire stream and say nothing, don't go away then and moan that the streamer hasn't interacted with you or ignored you if you haven't made the effort to engage that banter.
Exactly.
Or bring anything to the table.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many times have you seen that?
Exactly.
It's like going to it's no different than going to a party on a Saturday night or at any time, really. But we come to Julie's channel because we enjoy the content and the people are sensible
Yeah.
enough to ask sensible questions, and they enjoy the content. But it'd like
There you
being
go.
at a
Hang
party
on.
as an
Just hang on a sec,
analogy.
Deb. Pam's just said
Hello.
there. Ed and Lorraine turned up to the event she invited them to, and they did absolutely nothing. It was exactly the same after they'd gone.
Yep.
I have always said Ed and Lorraine Warren, and this is only my personal opinion of them. They were the original people who monetized the paranormal. They did it for money.
Yeah.
Well, it made them famous, didn't it?
Yeah, it was done for
Yep.
money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. You only ever heard about a few of their case files, and the rest of
Yeah.
it stays private. And you
Yeah.
kind of have to wonder how many people did they actually help, and why haven't those people come forward and spoken about it or anything?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, but in the context of etiquette, that's one thing about. I'm trying to find another word because investigations, urban explorers, we'll call it. Those that go into someone's home because they've contacted them
Yeah.
and they just stir things up and make it worse, and they get to leave.
Okay, well, how about you go?
Yeah.
I never think about the person afterwards and
Yeah.
what they've stirred up by being aggressive
Yeah.
and challenging and
Yeah.
all these other things, which I don't subscribe to.
Yeah. See, this is why I don't agree, Deb, with any team claiming that they can do things like get rid of spirits out of houses and stuff, because nobody
Or
can
cross
make that
somebody
claim.
over.
Yeah, nobody can make that claim with any certainty. Nobody.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
I had a lot of questions over a private house that I investigated twice, and the story was that the activity was so bad that it made their life hell. Yet they invited us, they invited a number of different people in every Saturday night. And I sat down with them and I says, listen, you don't know who you're inviting into your house.
Exactly.
You know, turns out that they were quite open about they're going to write a book about all the experiences. Of course, we were left out of it. I don't know why we were left out of it. Maybe it's because I questioned a lot of things.
Yeah, that's what it would have been.
There was other teams, they were all mentioned. I went through the book a number of times. I still can't find my name in there, but I don't want my name in it, to be honest with you, because I find out later that this house now, they're renting it out for a film set for horror movies and stuff like that. And I says, and me and Rachel, we were sitting there and we were looking at these posts on Facebook, and I says, would you go? I says to Rachel, would you go back to this house if you're invited again? She said no, and I says the same. No.
Yeah.
You know, we got 2 investigations. They kept calling off the 3rd investigation. We never got to do it. Maybe because if we done more than 2 or 3 investigations, we could debunk a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They you know, going in there once, that's great for them because they can tell their story and we get one night of an experience, but an investigation takes months. But we were only allowed 2 investigations. They wouldn't give us the 3rd one. Why is that? Yes, on Facebook they'll say, oh, we had a very dramatic week this week. I got pulled by the ankles in my bed and blah 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 blah. Every single week, and Rachel, I don't even look at the post now. Rachel is reading them, and she said, "Jared, look what so and so has wrote on Facebook.
Yeah.
Look, they've had some."
And this is exactly how East Drive works. So.
Yeah.
It's all commercial, and in the end, the monster literally feeds itself.
If you're terrorized in your own home, you would try to get the best people with the best.
Of course you would.
You're not going to take any Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street to
Exactly.
investigate your house.
Exactly.
Because you're going to get some idiot that's going to go in there and start,
stir it.
Stirring
you,
it up.
you do not know what you do not know what it is, and they don't know what it is.
And I told them, I says, if you're having this trouble in your house, we get to leave. You don't. So you
Yeah,
have to be
That's right.
very careful of who you invite into your house.
yeah,
Mm.
You
exactly.
know, so some of them things people don't take to those things. But I sat down and I started questioning some of these reasons, and possibly this book and money was involved in this. You know, and publicity for I done investigations there. That's free advertisement for them.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm, it's
So
still not right.
do you think that the monk house is actually not a legitimate haunting? It's just um, it's kind of the media, side of
I
it,
I
or
believe personally, and this is only my belief.
yeah.
Um, I believe the original case happened. I believe there was a poltergeist. I don't believe there was no reports of a black monk when they were there. There was a
No.
black mass reported in the coal shed that apparently locked Joe Pritchard in the coal shed with him. I believe it was one of the kids. It was centered around one of the kids, typical poltergeist case. When they moved out, it went with them, or it fizzled out like they do, like mine did. They eventually fizzle out over a number of months. The guy, because it was the story rolled on, the guy who made the film When the Lights Went Out now actually owns 30 East Drive. So the film was made, and now he owns the house and runs it as a commercial business. Now that house is like £300 a night to rent for a group of people, and
Oh,
that house is rented out every single night. So you can imagine the types of money that house
Jeez.
is turning over.
a lot.
It is humongous amounts. And the film was deliberately used to promote the house so he could run it as a commercial setup. And it is even done to the fact that they've bought, and it's not even the original furniture in the house. They've just gone to local junk shops and bought furniture from the 80s when the original case was going on and put it in the house to make the house look like it's still stuck in the 80s. They even glued a picture of the test card on the telly from the 80s to make it look like the telly was from the 80s.
Oh, God.
That's how staged and commercial that place is. I
Yeah.
don't believe there's anything goes on at East Drive now. Not a thing.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to use the cooker.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah,
get takeout. You know.
yeah. You do.
Uh, I know a person that went and investigated. Now they only done it one night and that,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and I suppose you can't judge it on one night. But he says I got more activity in an abandoned house down the road from my house than I
Yeah,
got from travelling from Ireland over to the United Kingdom to see this house, basically. I would not. I wouldn't fork out a lot of money for paranormal investigating. To be honest with you, I'm happy enough to go to the forest or go to the beach. I like going to the beach actually because lots of people don't. Lot of people don't do beaches and stuff. I like
Yeah, true.
out think outside the box and stuff like that.
Mm.
I don't mind forking out, amongst a group of people, a couple of quid. The most I've paid out for a location is £20.
yeah,
You know, amongst a group of people that it came to about £100 or whatever, and Cumber House is one of those. It's belonged to the football club, and it helps run their community. It's a building that was turned into a community centre for
yeah,
different things.
yeah,
I don't mind doing that, you know. But there is a lot of places, and the money is just. You could you
yeah.
could you could buy you could rent a fancy hotel room for a week with some of the money that
Oh yeah.
goes, you know.
Well,
Yeah. Well, look at the Bel Air House. I mean, that's
there
the
was
perfect
there
example.
was one place over here. It's one of the castles. I can't remember who it was. And one of the teams over here wanted to rent it for the night to do an investigation, and they wanted £1,000 off them for the night.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
That's over $2,000 Australian.
Yeah, for one night.
And when you think about it, what are you going to get in one night? What
Nothing.
in what
You're going to
what
be
in
very
Yeah.
lucky. You're going to be very lucky if you hit the jackpot in one night.
is that
Yeah.
worth 1,000? Is that information that you may gather or may not? Basically, it's a gamble. It's a big
Yeah,
gamble.
yeah,
And even the few bits and pieces that you might get, is it worth 1,000 quid? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That's right.
I will. I now. East Drive is only 40 minutes away from me. I'm really close to East Drive. Very close to East Drive. There's no way I'd pay. I'd go and pay the money that they want to go and investigate the place.
No, that's
Uh,
crazy.
and they wouldn't like me in
Yeah.
there anyway because I'd be dead honest about what was going on, which would be basically nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? One night's not going to be sort of
Yeah,
enough, really. You know what I mean?
yeah. But if
Well,
you
no.
watch them lot who go to East Drive, everybody who goes for one night, the devil and all his demons turn up for the night. We,
Oh,
there's a channel over here that, funnily enough, he hasn't been streaming for the last 12 months. He was called Curiosity, and he did a lot of paranormal debunking videos, and he actually did two two separate stints at East Drive, and he totally scathed the place. Totally scathed the place
yeah.
about nothing happening, right down to the point of actually coming out and publicly accusing the woman next door who's the key holder to the house, who's employed by the guy who owns it to look after the house, of throwing stuff around while he was there, and everybody knows it was going on, and everybody knows
Yeah.
she is part of the little collusion that goes on there. But he actually publicly stated it in his video that he had a suspicion she was part of it.
Mm.
What? And he's gone missing since he outed them.
No, he's done a few things since then, but for some reason his channel's gone quiet over the last 12 months, and he used to do
Ah,
some really
okay.
good stuff. Curiosity.
Might,
He covered the Manchester, because there's a rumor that there's a serial killer on the loose in Manchester killing gay men by pushing them into the canal and drowning them, because there's been a lot of drownings around the area, around the gay quarter of Manchester, and the police won't accept that there's anything suspicious about it. They're just putting it all down to accidents.
oh yeah.
And
Fits the profile each one, but
yeah, and he covered that. He actually covered that. But there's reports that the one guy was actually incoherent on the phone. He found his parents just before he went missing, screaming and crying and stuff, and they couldn't understand what he was saying. And they still put it down to accidentally fell in the canal.
I'm just going to go and change my earbuds out because they're running low. I'll be back in a
Okay,
bit.
okay, okay.
And it has nothing to do with lettuce, Brett, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. You're off to wet your lettuce on the sly. There she goes. Look, off to the cabbage patch.
There's a new product out. If anybody wants the product, find it an EMF detectors. Don't go to the equipment companies. They're going to charge you a fortune. But it's I can't remember the name of the actual product. But it's an EMF detector that will.
Oh yeah, I wanted you to send me the details on that.
Or we'll send it to you afterwards. But it's similar to the Geiger counter that I have.
Yeah,
It will give you 3 different readings of EMF detection, and one of those will be electrical magnetic field, where if you a text message or your phone triggers off, it will show it on one graph, but on the other graph it will not do that. And if you even hold it up to your spirit box or your radio or something electrical on one of those graphs, it will not move. So if it does move, then you can question it. But it's able to debunk electrical magnetic interference like
yeah,
phones, walkie-talkies, etc., and stuff like that.
yeah,
Because the K2 is it's very sensitive to everything. You can have a walkie-talkie a good distance away, and once you press the side button, you can manipulate that whatever way you want. Same with phones when you're live streaming and stuff like that. The EMF detect the K2 it won't even give you an accurate reading of EMF. It only sets up lights, and a lot of us now use it as a trigger object. But
Yeah.
it's highly sensitive to radio waves and electronic interference and stuff like that. But this new
Yeah.
product is it's got three different types of electric magnetic field. You know, so you can have some sort of an idea where the electromagnetic
The source is
field
coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know?
Yeah, I
So-
wouldn't mind getting one of them actually. Oh,
20
I've got some news. Hopefully, I should be getting a new camera for the channel and also to do outside broadcasts with. So we should be getting really high quality video on the channel before long,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yay. Oh, I shouldn't do that, should I?
Well,
All right. I'm just getting the link for the Discord too, just to let you guys know that we have Discord now, and Discord is a really good platform for getting information about the streams and for chatting and sharing little bits of evidence you guys catch. You can keep talking. I'm just you pulling
Okay,
faces
okay.
at me. Okay, I thought you were pulling faces at me. I'm
Yeah.
just
Quickly going back to the EMF detector. That particular EMF detector is £29.99. You no need to pay £60-70
yeah.
from a ghost hunting company. There you can get them. If you're looking for EMF detectors, look on the EMF detector sections on YouTube or Amazon.
Yeah, I'll have a look for it. You'll have to give me the name of it and I'll do a search for it.
Yeah, I've ordered one actually. So
Did you get that link last night for the boom arm?
Oh, I forgot to check, but I will check.
Yeah, I'll put it on Skype for you. It's on Skype.
Yeah, it could be very useful for reviewing products and stuff. You know.
Mm-hmm. Julie in a Discord. You do not know the pain I went through with that Discord.
we had fun.
I joined Discord because of some other paranormal team, so I have it on my phone. So
yeah, I've got a Discord channel, Sam. If you want to join it,
hang on, I'm getting the link.
That's where we normally chat.
All right.
Yeah, eventually I've been thinking I'm going to get rid of my Twitter, maybe my Insta and Facebook. I might just keep for kind of personal use. So I'll probably end up using the Discord for everything.
Yeah, it's a lot better because you can put everything on there. You can have voice chats on there. You know, so even if you ain't streaming, you can still talk to people.
All right.
You can link all your videos and everything on there. Up ahead. It's like a complete communication package.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. It's totally free, Kim. It is totally free.
Yeah, it's free.
You can work it either on a computer or on your phone. Yeah, we were doing music quizzes yesterday. We had quite a laugh with them.
We had fun.
Julie was cheating because she types fast.
I can't help it. I'm there like. That was good.
Yeah, if you Google Discord, Kim, you can either have it on your computer, which I prefer. I prefer it on the computer, but you can also have it on your mobile phone. I use it on both, but mainly on my phone. So you can even use it when you're out and about.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you can have that icon on your phone with all your
Yeah.
apps and stuff. You
Yeah,
just click
yeah.
into it and stuff.
So it's good because if I want to talk to Julie, I don't have to phone Australia. We can just talk through Discord because there's voice channels and text channels on there.
Yeah, it's really good.
Back in the second, I wonder what.
Yeah, you did ring me, Jack.
Okay.
I gathered you'd press the wrong button.
I'm going to powder my nose. I'll be back in a second.
You're going to wet your letters.
Aye. Yeah.
Don't forget to stamp your feet when you're finished, like Deb's just done.
Night, MCAT. Have a safe day at work.
You have a good night, MCAT. Because that was the longest effort ever to go and get a pair of earbuds, wasn't it? Don't you think?
She's just looking at you, Brett, like you're gonna get it. Your meatballs are gonna get it.
You'll get used to it really quick, Jack. But Discord is brilliant for channels to use as like a central communication point, because you can even do private sessions on there out of the way, so they ain't even on YouTube. You can just have little conferences on there and talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, it took me a while to get the hang of it too.
Yeah.
I kept accidentally leaving the chat when we were talking.
Yeah. I did it once because I forgot. I was in mine, and then I clicked on yours, thinking, "Oh, we're on," and we weren't. We were still in mine.
Yep.
I'm going to go getting sleepy. Love to all. You have a good night, Luna.
Bye, Luna.
Good night, Luna.
Yeah, we might end this stream soon too if you guys want to hang around.
Do you know we've been going 3 hours?
I know. I just looked at that. I'm like 3 hours.
I've literally just flicked it up, and it's bang on 3 hours.
Yep, just now.
It flew by again.
It is. All right,
Well,
guys.
we've had a pretty broad range.
We have.
Yeah.
We've had a really
Yeah.
good talk.
Why
No,
is Hazel?
they're fine, Evelyn. I'm just sitting here tonight because of my back. That's all. All right, guys. We will say good night to you. Thank you all for coming in. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and we look forward to next week with you all. Thank you, Brett,
Yep.
Sam, and Deb for joining
You're
me.
welcome.
Anytime.
And-
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Have a good night, everybody, or day,
Thank you.
depending on where you are.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.